1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready. Now go, cat, go, but don't you step on my blue suede shoe.
Your regulatory, requirements. So there are 16 total units on the 2 living floors, and they are divided between 8 one-bedroom units, 7 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom. And right now we're proposing 5 family units and 11 supportive housing units. And it's those 11 supportive housing units that allow for a variance, if you will, from RSIS parking standards, because our experience, perhaps you may have even observed at 311 Tenafly Road, is that about 1 out of every 10 in our supportive housing project drives. So often, as was the case, I was at 311 this past weekend, there was 1 other car aside from mine in the parking lot. So as a consequence, not a big parking demand, so that gives us some flexibility in terms of density and ratio to parking. Now, when I say supportive housing, that can be a pretty wide angle lens. Those supportive housing units some can be set aside to serve veterans, as an example, who fit under the category of supportive housing and special needs housing. So there's some room for sort of creativity, if you will, in terms of population served within the 11 housing units. And the 5 families are subject to what's known as UHAC, which is the Universal Housing Affordability Controls, that basically say that if you have 10 units of housing, you must have 2 3-bedroom units, you must have 2 2-bedroom units, and then the rest can be 1-bedroom units. So following UHAC rules with 5 units, we have 1 3-bedroom unit. 3-bedroom units are really difficult because of the space that they take up, and also difficult from a rental perspective to find income eligible folks for those units. So that's sort of what we're looking at right now. James has been to the site. We've been to the site. You can see how the ingress and egress works. We think pretty well off of Serpentine and Phelps, because we now have that corner property, which is so crucial to achieve the densities that we are looking for. And an elevator in this building, of course, to serve residents. So I'll just stop there in case anyone has any questions or comments.
Council members with question. Go ahead.
Question too.
Go ahead. Whoever was first.
Lauren, this is Councilwoman Lauren Dayton. Mr. Toronto, thank you so very much for joining us. We are thrilled with the project on Tenafly Road, and I think many of the families are finding it incredibly successful for themselves and their families as well. So thank you. And I know what a great job United Way has done in other communities. So you'll have to excuse my questions coming up.
Okay.
So we have this property, and actually it's Serpentine Road, Phelps, and Dean Drive behind it. And as you know, Tenafly has the brook that runs along Dean. And we have, just finished suffering incredible storm damage from Hurricane Ida. And my fear is that the underground parking here and the closeness to the Dean Drive isn't sufficient. And again, the planning board and engineers have to do this, isn't sufficient to address those kinds of issues. So if there wasn't underground parking, what are your options?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman. It's actually not underground parking. It's at grade on the first floor. So it's not underground. It's under the building. A portion of the parking lot is under the building. It's not drawn as effectively, but follow the dotted line on the elevation. It shows the parking level. That's at grade. That's the first floor. And then the dotted line is the outline of the building. And you see that it kind of covers maybe the first 1/5 of the parking around the perimeter, but it is over the parking, on the interior. So it is not underground.
But it's impervious coverage.
It is
the whole side that faces Dean Drive.
Well, the Dean Drive is, there's a good distance between us and Dean Drive, and then you have the road, and then you have the railroad, and then you have the brook. The good news about this property, as opposed to 311 Tenafly Road, is when we were looking to develop 311 Tenafly Road with you, the stormwater or the stream buffers had changed, which actually rendered that property for the 311 I'm talking about, for any other purposes, basically undevelopable because the buffer was 150 feet. So with the help of the borough and the borough's engineer, Dave Halls at the time, still the borough's engineer, we were able to appeal to the DEP for a waiver from that 150-foot buffer, and we were able to build the project. Now, having walked behind the building, I can tell you that the building withstood, and the building is at grade, facing Tenafly Road. It's got a drop, but no storm damage. Everything is intact. This property is more than 150 feet, so there's no worry about a buffer encroachment with this property. And per use requirements, all of our storm water has to be accounted for on site at Serpentine and Phelps. So an underlayment beneath the parking lot with detention basins, whatever else might be needed to be designed, will make sure that all of the water is captured and dealt with appropriately. And furthermore, we're looking at all of our calculations and recalculating based on IDA and the prototypical 100-year storm, which of course is no longer every 100 years. It's, every couple of years. So rest assured, Councilwoman, that we'll be accounting for the for water, stormwater management.
That's great to hear. Thank you. I just always keep in mind the surrounding property and obviously the one right next door, incredibly sensitive, would hate to see that flooded. Thank you for your response.
Tom, hi, this is Julie O'Connor. So I see that's 16 total units. Are you saying that that's kind of what you're directed into, because you have to have a certain amount of 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, and a 3 bedroom? Or because obviously as a town, we want to address as much of the affordable housing units that we can in any site that we have. And I thought when we had kicked around ideas among the council, I thought we're trying to look for more than 16 units. Is it possible to make these more? Are you trapped into a certain calculation?
Well, we're not trapped into a certain calculation. One of the reasons we wanted to kind of minimize to a degree the affordable family units was the moment we go past 5, we trigger another 3-bedroom unit, and that just is a lot of square footage. Could we go higher? Could we add another floor? That's possible, but we're right now we are about a of your height limitation, which I believe is 35. 34.
Can you say that again? There's so many people jumping in. I didn't hear what you said about our height limitation.
So the building is designed to be conforming with your height limitation per your current. If we want another floor, it would require a variance.
Okay.
Right. So, but Tom, to follow up on the councilwoman's question, you could add more units if you go another floor. It's really that simple.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions from other council members? Okay. Wendy, what's the next? I guess my question. So in no particular order, the Councilwoman O'Connor, do you like the basics of this plan with the caveat that you potentially add more units to it somehow?
Yeah, I'd like it to go higher personally. I'd like it to have more units. Yes.
Would Council President Dayton, would you generally like this project?
I think the United Way is a fantastic company to work with for affordable housing and would be happy to work with them. I like this plan very much. My fear on going higher again is the shadow to the neighboring properties, which I would hate to see.
Yeah, we're not making any decisions tonight. we're just trying to understand how everyone kind of feels about this. Councilman Menon, do you have any thoughts on this presentation, this proposal?
So, I mean, I appreciate, well, first of all, thank you, Tom, for coming in and describing this to us. I'm kind of looking at it the same way that Councilwoman O'Connor was talking about it in terms of, you know, we've got, you said for if you go more than 5 2-bedroom units, it triggers another 1 3-bedroom.
On the for the family, the affordable family units, when we go past 5, then we have creates another 3-bedroom. Now, having said that, Councilman, if we went another floor, and I would add that, you know, we don't have to add a full floor. You know, James can work it so that there's so that floor is recessed and indented. So from the street, you know, you're not going to see 4 floors necessarily. You know, you might like see something like 3.5, and it allows for, you know, some roof decks and some other things that we can do, and we can lower the number. Still get an increase in density, but not an exact floor plate, so to speak, added. And if we did that and we added in some additional affordable family, what we have the ability to do then is to stack the 3 bedrooms top of one another, which creates more efficiency in terms of space utilization. So we can explore that absolutely and see if we can drive the yield up to something like 20, let's say 20 units, you know, potentially.
But in terms of increasing the number of 1-bedroom units, is that a possibility, or you know,
Well,
and I do like the idea of you know, having the recess. You know, that's a good you know, use of the space, I think. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
the back of the building, you know, faces the back of a commercial building, right?
Right.
So there's play there. And on the 1-bedroom units, there's a couple of challenges. You know, we need to account for 1-bedroom units, of course, for the family affordable, and increasingly for the supportive housing. And I think also as a result of the pandemic, a real demand now for 1-bedrooms versus 2 bedrooms where we have to make roommate connection. So the benefit on the supportive housing side, of course, is that bedrooms in supportive housing are units, whereas in an affordable family, a 3-bedroom unit is a 3-bedroom apartment, 1 COA credit. A 1-bedroom supportive housing unit is potentially 2 credits, and a 2-bedroom supportive housing unit is potentially 4 credits, because on supportive housing it's measured by the bedroom. And in addition, there's an incentive in affordable housing for the production of supportive housing. It provides municipalities with a 2-1 bonus for the production of supportive housing. Caveat being that your current inventory of supportive housing can't be more than 25% of all of your affordable housing. I don't know if you've hit that 25% limit. And if you haven't, then there's room for a multiple here based on housing unit. I hope I didn't confuse everybody. It gets to be a little algebraic, but it's, you know, supportive housing has more bang for the buck if you.
Right. Well, thank you for your responses, and Mark and Mayor, in direct response to what you were saying, I like the direction it's going. I think there are some tweaks that should and need to be made, but I think overall it you know, it seems like a positive direction.
Okay, Councilman Park, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I've had the fortunate. I've seen Tom work at other projects. My time with the county, his projects, they're phenomenal, and everything he does is great. So I'm in favor of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Question for Wendy, though. Question for Wendy. Are we allowed to designate this entire facility for veterans?
So that's a good question. You do need to get some family units potentially added with this fourth additional site that was purchased, and that was part of the reasoning behind adding a fourth site. Your original court approval was for the 3 sites with supportive housing. So that would all depend on, you know, the number of units in there, and how it all shakes out with a potential amendment to your settlement agreement. So it's a lot of moving parts on that question. I'm afraid I can't answer it directly yet.
Okay.
But it's certainly something to look into.
Okie dokie. Thank you.
Councilman Grossman, what are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Tom, thank you so much for the work on this. This is, I think it looks wonderful. I don't know that I'd want a full extra floor above, but if we can fit something in with a little tweaking here and there, that would be wonderful. I'm all for that. I do think, given that there are 2 properties, not 1, but 2 properties between this site and Dean Drive, I'm less concerned. Also, this is a little grade uphill from Dean Drive, so I don't see that as being an issue unless we have another 250-year storm, in which case you can move it a mile away from Dean Drive. But otherwise, with that little tweaking, I agree with everybody. That would be nice if it can be done, but I don't want that to be a holdup or a killer for this wonderful project.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Michaels, your thoughts?
Supportive as discussed. Thank you.
Okay. So Wendy, what's the next step here is to send it off to the planning board for them to discuss, or what are your thoughts?
Well, Mayor, given some of the feedback from the council members, what I'd like to do with yours and the council's permission is go back to review the settlement agreement, see what your needs are as far as the type of units. As Tom has correctly pointed out, your special needs supportive housing is capped by 25% of your overall obligation or realistic development potential on this round. So let's look back at those numbers and see how it kind of shakes out with what the pros needs are. And I can get back to Tom and let him know what potentially more he could add based on some of the council's desires to potentially add the half floor up or see if there's more units available. And from there, there's a couple of other steps on the litigation process that we should probably move with first. But certainly the planning board should start looking to see how they feel about the renderings.
Okay, so it sounds to me like why don't take your own 3 steps there, start moving it, knowing that the council has not made a decision. Let's move in that direction and see what the next iteration of this looks like and what all the legal issues are.
Do that.
Okay.
Great.
Tom, do you have any closing comments? I think we're good, and then we're going to see you hopefully sooner than later back here with some of those responses.
Yes, no, absolutely. Thanks everyone for your kind words and your confidence, and we'll get busy. We'll work with James. We'll see if we can retool a bit. And work with Wendy to make sure we have the program correctly recorded in terms of populations to be served. And I would also add on the veteran side that when we do our affirmative marketing on the family units, we can for veterans into the family units as well, and they would have a preference. So family units can also be veteran eligible as well as the supportive or special needs, whatever that number turns out to be. So I have that message, and I would just close by telling you that the timing is great. The Special Needs Housing Trust Fund has been restored at the state level. So the Housing Mortgage Finance Agency, which helped us significantly with 311 Tenafly Road, is back in the game. So 2021, the cupboard is, I'm not going to say full, but have been pretty bare from a funding perspective. There's more things to choose from. So I'm pretty optimistic about our chances in terms of building our capital stack for construction financing. So, and the mix of populations also very appealing from a funding perspective as well. So very excited to work with you again.
I'm sorry, Tom, if I may, do you have an idea of when the next round of applications are to be submitted so that we know if there's a timeline that we should keep to?
Well, you know, Wendy, the only application deadline, well, there's two actually. I mean, for low-income housing tax credits, there was just a deadline of August 31. I don't think that we're going to get to the number of units, even with an increase, that would rise to the occasion to pursue 9% low-income housing tax credits. Possibly 4%, and they're on a rolling basis, so that application process is always open. The Special Needs Housing Trust Fund always open. Home dollars, which are at the county level, to be submitted actually pretty soon this fall. But, you know, timing-wise, we'd still be eligible for 2021. I'm not seeing anything that concerns me that has an immediacy to it from a funding perspective. Federal Home Loan Bank will be open in the spring. The next round of tax credit, 9% tax credit, if it turns out we might be eligible, would also be in the spring. So I think if we keep our calendar moving and our momentum moving, you know, we'll be teed up appropriately for all those funding cycles as potentials.
So,
Okay.
Mayor?
Of course, go ahead, Vanu.
Not to kind of ask an indelicate question at the moment, but I remember we were dealing with 2 or 3 different, you know, United Way was one, and there were 2 others. Whatever happened to those other proposals?
Well, I'll just to say it indelicately, they really haven't shown much interest. You know, I could certainly go back to them to poke the bear again, but that's really the answer to the question.
Okay. I mean, you know, I didn't want to get into it too much, but I just, you know, I remember, and so it was basically them not showing interest, not anything that we said or did.
No, we've got emails out, and you know, the conversations were equal amongst everyone, and it's just kind of naturally flowed this way. That's, you know, how many times are we going to ask people, hey, do you want this property to develop? That sort of thing.
Okay. No, that was it. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
I'm sorry.
All right, Tom, thank you very much.
Mayor, wait, before Tom goes, can I ask one more request?
Of course.
When this gets reviewed and continue to be reviewed, I would like to just keep in mind the privacy, maybe additional privacy or landscaping between this property and the adjoining property. So that way no resident who takes an affordable housing really, especially on the first floor, I would just like some coverage between this and the cemetery.
Of course.
Okay. So, Tom, just, you know, so to reiterate, you've heard all the concerns and questions of all the council members. So, you know, factor that into, you know, planning.
Indeed, I will. I heard them all, recorded them, and we'll tend to it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Tom. Appreciate your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you all.
Okay. Next on the list to be considered, the first item is the Clinton Inn, and all the council members have the basic elevation and floor plan layout from Spring Hills and the Clinton Inn. Andrew Till, are you here at this meeting?
I'm on my. I was at Borough Hall, but I got, you know, left. And then I realized it was virtual, so I'm here.
But you're here now, so that's what matters, right? But
so good. I'm here.
On October 5th,
I'm actually here with. I'm sorry. I'm here with
Go
Bill Burr.
ahead.
Bill Burr's here too.
Hey, Bill, how you doing tonight?
Good. We were at town hall. We were like trying to get in the door. We thought you locked us out.
No, our locksmith is very effective. But you're here now, so that's good. So just to kind of tee this up, and then we'll have a little presentation from Bill and Andrew. Essentially, okay. Essentially,
sorry.
That's all right.
1 second. Sorry.
It's okay. After to the council, after the presentation here, and any questions from the council, you know, we're going to talk about whether or not it's time to pass this off to the planning board to start actually doing the detailed work with the folks from the Clinton Inn eventually make this a reality. So with that, Bill and Andrew, why don't you go ahead and give us a little synopsis of what's going on here, please?
Mayor, if I may interrupt, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Just to add very briefly, Jeff Zen is also on this call to assist upon completion of the
Great.
presentation.
Wonderful. Hi, Jeff. How you doing? You can just wave like, hey. Oh, good. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight.
Everyone.
Okay, Bill and Andrew.
Sure. We're here. All right. So we were standing in front of town hall. We thought you locked us out on purpose. Yeah, we didn't know if you heard. But anyway, we're here. Anyway, so if you want, so first of all, we appreciate the ability to present this really exciting project for the borough, and it's been a long time in the making. And we're excited to be able to come back to the council, taking a lot of comments in that were kind of feedback from a number of iterations here. We're very excited to bring a world-class assisted living facility on Dean Road, and we're also as excited to bring the hotel and event center back to its former glory, which I think will be a welcome, a welcome improvement to that very, very important corner to the borough at Dean and East Clinton. And overall, we've sent in the renderings. We're looking forward to taking our next steps to the planning board. And I think this is really, in our view, from both that empty property that's been for a long time on Dean Road and improving that, but as well as really as we continue, as all of us in town continue to improve downtown Tenafly, we know and feel very passionate about. We feel very passionate about the Clinton Inn, our beloved Clinton Inn. So yeah, we appreciate the council seeing our progress and hearing us, and we're very, very excited to make this, to make these improvements, and that's what we have tonight.
So, Andrew, I'm just gonna ask a couple of questions, and then the council is gonna ask all their questions. This first photograph we have here, where it says, we see the Clinton Inn as if, correct me if I'm wrong, looking from Mount Carmel Church, and we see the word steakhouse and the My Inn. Tell us what's going on there, and then what the building beyond. You still there, Andrew?
Looks like we got lost Andrew for a second.
Mayor, right? Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I lost you for just a second. You were talking about the perspective of looking down Dean. Was that what you were asking?
Yep, that's the one. From the perspective from Mount Carmel, we're looking at we have a steakhouse there, and it says My Inn. What are we looking at here?
That is the renovated hotel, and renovated. Can you hear me okay?
Can we share, Andrew,
Okay.
do you have this on a screen to share with the public? Only because it's a public meeting?
I don't have it, and we had it in hard copy. We were expecting to come to the Borough Hall, so I was not prepared with the electronic presentation. But I believe you all have it. We can obviously send it in electronic form also.
Can't that be done by Omar, because it is hyperlinked? So it's hyperlinked, so he can share the screen, so everyone can see it.
Sure.
Right. Not even Andrew. I mean Omar, right?
Well,
or Andrew.
Councilwoman O'Connor, I memorized this image it's ingrained in my.
I'm not worried about you.
I know. It's ingrained in my brain. So while Omar's pulling it up, why don't I just?
You can describe what we're looking at that you have in your brain. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, it's burnt into my brain. It's the fully renovated hotel. We used a little info with the My Inn. We have not selected a brand or a flag or anything like that, but we want to demonstrate that the hotel is going to remain exactly in the size and shape.
Andrew?
Yes.
Could you hold on a second?
Sure,
Omar, your share is not showing up. Can we, can maybe Jimmy or somebody else share it on screen before Andrew goes too far into it?
Sorry, you're right, Councilman Menon. That's a good idea.
I know Lauren is, Councilwoman Dayton is trying to show up the hard copy on screen.
I mean, the drawings are beautiful, so might as well share them with the public.
Yes.
Omar, it might just be your screen that you're sharing is the gray one. You know what I mean? Like you probably have a few screens open.
Or lack of bandwidth.
I may have to stop sharing because I can't, on my end, it's showing up, but it may not be showing up on your end.
Right. Yeah, that's why I'm suggesting maybe Jimmy or somebody else could.
I'm trying to pull up the document.
Only we could get the right IT services to get us back into a hybrid mode, if only.
Just about there.
Can I ask a question before this? And this is a procedural one. Did the surrounding properties get noticed that we would be discussing this tonight?
No, they did not, because this is not, there's no decisions we're making tonight. It's not even a public hearing. It's just, we're trying to get a sense of, does the council want to send this off to the planning board to start the process?
Okay. Let Andrew continue, because it doesn't look like we're going to get this image up.
Sure, that's okay. I'm going to explain it so beautifully, it's going to be ingrained in all of your minds the way that it is in mine. So we're looking at the rendering is looking looking at down Dean, heading south from the church at your back. The hotel is oh, there it is. All right.
Nice job.
Nice job, Omar. Thank you so much. The hotel is staying in its exact shape and form. One thing you're seeing differently is that if you were to look at it today, besides the fact that the exterior doesn't look as beautiful, I'll say that's the understatement of the century, but is a roof terrace over the existing lower roof. So nothing else. We are not, that is not being changed either. There's no addition going on in the hotel. And this is a property we'll be doing a full renovation, exterior and interior. And so that's what you're looking at, specifically the hotel and the event center, as it's called now. And then further south is the assisted living facility, which is the which is the brick, limestone, stucco. We're really proud of this design, actually. And for those of you that don't know the Spring Hills product, Spring Hills builds just a phenomenal, just really phenomenal product. I can't get into all of the details because I'm not smart enough to really talk about this, but we are going to be able to contribute to the borough's COA requirement with because 10% of our beds are Medicaid, and we've our COA council actually just as early as this afternoon discussed this with the borough's COA council. So that was very good news for the project. Just more contribution. The project has parking on the ground level. Those windows that you're seeing on the ground level are actually the parking. Oh, sorry. Do you want to flip? Sure. So yeah, I don't know if you can. Yeah. So the parking actually enters the building from the rear. There's a pull-up driveway for drop-offs
vehicle drop-offs, but all of the parking will enter the rear of the building. And one thing that I think is really great about this project when it comes from a parking and traffic perspective is that the hotel remains the hotel, and the new use, the assisted living, doesn't have much traffic because all the residents don't drive because it's assisted living and memory care, and the staff. Bill, just correct me if I'm wrong. The staff for the assisted living arrives at, what are the 3 shifts? I'm sorry,
7 to 3,
7 to 3,
3 to 11,
3 to 11,
7.
and 11 to 7.
And you have
So
an administrative shift. It's 9 to 5.
right, and an administrative staff that's 9 to 5. So just important to think about the use and how that's going to impact, not impact, traffic at high, at rush hour or certain times like that. So anyway, the ground floor has it's kind of embedded down into the ground a little bit, has the parking level, which enters from behind. If you want to just, Omar, I don't know if you're controlling, but if you want to scroll up. I don't know if this is going to populate. The ground floor, I'm not sure if it's going to populate, but the ground floor has offices, amenity spaces, dining, etc. And then the balance of the floors have the assisted living and memory care units, which also incorporate the 10% of the units being Medicaid, which, as I mentioned before, meets or can comply with the borough's COA requirement. We've tried architecturally to have some, it shows better in the rendering, some, ins and outs on the facade, which I think the treatment, goes very well. We want to thank the borough's, the planning board, the borough's engineer, Dave Halls, Mr. Halls. He's been instrumental in assisting our team in just what the borough is going to be looking for in terms of just the site items. And so that's been extremely, we've tried to come to the council not expecting it to be 100%, but with as much diligence as we can do. So we want to thank him because he's been helpful during presentations, et cetera, and just commenting and giving us the heads up. I think the rest of the presentation is really just the floor plans. So whenever that gets populated, but again, I just want to I appreciate you guys giving us the time to I guess I'll say represent, because I know this project was presented many moons ago before my time. But I wanted, we're excited to bring life back to this part of Dean Drive. And again, I think we're more excited, and we're even as excited to really bring that corner, the corner of Dean and East Clinton. And I said it before, but back to its former glory, because the town of Tenafly deserves an amazing downtown and a place that a hotel and a catering facility that people are wanting to be at, and as well as supporting businesses. Oh, I'll go on mute. That's not me, is it? That wasn't me. Okay. Sorry. And there's so many. I think I was telling Councilwoman Dayton the other night at the Nature Center gala that there are so many businesses on 9W that would really love to put their employees at a hotel at the location of the existing Clinton Inn. They just can't do it because of the condition, the condition. So they're sending their visitors and guests to Teaneck, to the Marriott, and Tenafly. They should be coming to Tenafly.
Andrew,
yeah.
super quick question for you,
Sure.
because before it escapes my mind.
Sure.
You had mentioned something about the on the first floor of the assisted living would be dining halls or shops or whatever, is that just for the assisted living,
Yes.
or are those more like front facing?
Yes. You know,
That's just a question.
Yeah, Councilwoman O'Connor, when you're in assisted living, you pay a monthly rent, and in that rent includes your meals and your amenities and all that stuff. So everything we're talking about, everything in the building is not publicly accessible. It's only accessible to the residents of the facility, of the assisted living facility. Good
Thank you.
Good question. Thank you for letting me clarify that.
Question.
Okay. Go ahead. Questions from council members, please.
I had a question, Mayor. It's Lauren.
Go ahead.
Thank you to everyone who's been tirelessly working on this project again. Andrew and I did get to speak briefly the other evening, and I'll tell him the same question today that I did the other evening. It's the same question I asked the last property, and of course, this is the impervious coverage behind closest to the brook. So the building down Dean Drive, which I know we spoke about, which is a brick building and has a parking lot. I know the parking lot and the first floor flood. I would like to see in this plan, and maybe this is something for the engineers, the planning board to look at, is some water catchment on the side that faces the railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have currently right now at the Clinton Inn, a completely impervious parking lot. And we know we get significant runoff farther down Dean. I'm not sure what happens at the Clinton Inn now. I'd be curious to know those answers. So that's
Sure.
my concept for the water. My second thing is I think that you guys have really done an amazing job and an excellent job hearing our concerns about the height and the setback from the town and, the density feeling, putting something very high, very close to Mount Carmel and that intersection. I think the concept of switching the plan and keeping the Clinton Inn as the hotel was really ingenious, and I want to say thank you for that. And I look forward to, seeing this come through the planning board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Michaels, do you have questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Till. Again, beautiful. It's always great to invest in our community. So I'm a big fan. I think the biggest thing for me, and I've shared this already, is just the traffic patterns. So my hope, and I would hope it's your hope and your investors' hope as well, that there's significant increase in traffic, because that would mean that the hotel does better than it's done before. That means that children go visit their parents more. So there's all positive things there. We have spoken in the past about the intersection of East Clinton and Dean. I think there's significant work that needs to be done. So I'm eager, and I don't expect you to have it now, but eager to see the engineers and their view of what we need to do differently there.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, I'd also take a look at, I'm not that good of a driver, the Dean Hyler. It's not an intersection. It's this sort of blind Y where you're supposed to stop at Dean. Maybe 80% of people do, but even when you do, it's pretty hard to see what's behind you. So again, my hope is that there's a lot of increased traffic. Again, you mentioned that these are hopefully going to be people that are from out of town, right? They're at LG and other places that don't know the area as well. So I'd strongly ask that in addition to East Clinton and Dean, we also take a look at that Dean and Hyler Y intersection, and just make sure, just from safety perspective, I'm sure the chief will be involved. I just don't want to see an increase in traffic accidents, but otherwise very supportive.
Councilman Michaels, let me just point something out. Dave Halls brought to our attention that that's actually a county intersection, not a borough. The road is a county road. Up to a certain point at Dean where it goes back to a borough of Tenafly Road. So he has suggested already to our engineers that we need to be contacting Bergen County to talk to them about this. So we are already doing that. And we will come back to everyone and let you know what the county says about the intersection of Dean. It's both intersections are county, I guess, controlled intersections or whatever. So I want to let you know we're already looking at
That's great. And then in any way, again, I'm sure we know one or two people at the county as well that David or the mayor can be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it's a county role, but it's our town.
Yep.
And I want to make sure that we feel comfortable
Yep.
with what's being decided.
Yep, we'll be sharing it, and but he suggested we contact them because they may have had some prior studies, so we wanted to pull all that stuff and share it with everyone.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Menon, do you have questions?
So Councilwoman Dayton's comment about taking into account our concerns about height and density, I can honestly say that I had absolutely nobody spoke to me about what kind of height I might be interested in for the structure, or what kind of density I might be considering. So from that angle, or that point of view, I can say I'm 180 degrees from Councilwoman Dayton on that. But having said that, my thought about height and density is, when you're looking at a structure that is as monolithic and facing, it's basically a wall, that's a mountain that's coming up as soon as you enter Tenafly. And I think it's much too high and much too massive. And I appreciate that, it looks pretty in a drawing, but you have to imagine driving down and, coming into a town that everything else is, 2 stories. Even in the downtown, the majority of the stuff is much smaller. The highest being, I guess, Mount Carmel. We're not talking about a small footprint that's 6 stories high. We're talking about a massive structure there, and I think that is not what the residents of Tenafly would be looking for. I think there would be quite a bit of contention. I mean, from my side as well. Specifically, I think it's much too high for what the space can accept. So that's just my personal thoughts. I'd love to hear from the other council people and see what they think.
I just want to say,
Councilman.
wait, Mayor, I didn't talk to anybody outside of our council table, other than what Andrew just said to the public meeting. The conversation we all had when we were proposing this at the table of, do we want 10 stories? Do we want 4 stories? All in a casual way. And that was the only conversation on height and density that we've had.
Oh, okay. I apologize for the misunderstanding. But we were having a general discussion, and I think even at that time we didn't quite think that 6 stories was appropriate. But even in the informal discussion, so I stand, apart from you on that sense of how the conversation went.
Okay, Councilman Grossman, your thoughts.
All right. First of all, Andrew, thank you. That was a nice presentation. Really appreciate it. And actually, you and I also talked about Unilever and their use of the facilities on Sunday.
Yes.
And so I guess it wasn't just me that you talked about these businesses wanting to use it. When I look at this whole plan, let me start, because it's really 2 different facilities. So let me start with the hotel. The hotel's gorgeous. I think that really would be something that would be a beautiful sight from our town. I try and think of how that would look from Hyler Park. The back section, back meaning towards the railroad, is a little bland, and that's really what is facing the downtown. The nice section there is facing Dean and almost away from downtown. I get that. But overall, a really great facility, and we are in need of something like this. Separately, let's talk about the assisted living. Yeah, I drove around. I started with the towns in the Northern Valley. And so those towns really going up from us. And I consider those to be comparable towns, and towns I always hear, oh, our residents are looking at homes in Closter, Norwood. building net schools there. And I drove around those towns.
Omar, excuse me, Jeff. Omar, could you please mute whoever is creating that noise, please? Go ahead, Councilman Grossman. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, I drove around Demorest, Closter, Presqu'île, Norwood, even Dumont, and some of the other towns around. And I was looking for a 6-story building in a very suburban community that's comparable to ours. Now, that they don't have it is not by itself a deal breaker, but it did lead me to wonder, what is the nature of suburbia? Where is suburbia heading? And we do have a series of some 2-family homes right across the street from where this assisted living would be. And they're not very high. And when they bought, they know what the zoning is in town. They also know that they were across the street from homes. They did not have to expect to always be, because that is zoned for businesses. But it certainly was never zoned for 6 stories. And I would almost ask any council member here, how many of you, and because Dean is not a very particularly wide road, it's 2-lane like all the roads that we live on. How many of you would want a 6-story building across the street from you? I really do want you to think about that as you go through it. And if you're not sure what 6 stories look like, as I say, I tried really hard to find them. First of all, I did find one going up. If you go to Hackensack at the bottom of Kinderkamak, right off of Route 4, you can actually see them from Route 4, where Route 4 is a bridge over Kinderkamak. Those buildings go to and slightly above the height of Route 4. So I would urge you to go down there when you're talking about heights of buildings. I would urge everybody on this council to go there, and I'll urge the planning board as well to look at what that looks like, and that's a wider road. So I am a little, I have a problem with that height. When I take it down to 4 stories, I then go to Englewood, right off the circle in Englewood, not far from Liberty. They are now putting up where the Korean market used to be, right off the circle. They're putting up 4 stories, right up to the road, similar to what's proposed. Still pretty big across street from homes. Stand at the homes, look across street. That will give you an idea of what 4 stories look like. I think that's probably livable. I again have a problem with the 6 stories on this part of it. That's farthest away from town, downtown, and closest to our residents. So, and I'm also, as I drive up Tyler towards Westervelt off of Dean, I try and imagine what this will look like in wintertime when there aren't all the leaves on the trees blocking things, and a 6-story building will be highly visible not only from Tyler but up on Serpentine. Then we get into the question, Serpentine, and that whole area is the Atwood Historic District and how that looks. So those are my concerns. Really trying to project, having lived here, I believe in progress, but I also don't believe in creating something so that we can get something else, like creating a 6-story assisted living to get a beautiful hotel. My question would be, could that assisted living be 4 or 5 stories? I'm still really not sold on 6. So those are my concerns. And again, beautiful plans, and I appreciate all the work that went into it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Question. Jeff, did you go see in Ridgewood that black and white new one that looks like an old-fashioned Tudor? Right in the heart of their downtown, a little set off. Does anyone know how many stories that one is?
I don't know. I know the one you're talking about. That's in the heart of downtown Ridgewood, right?
Well, this would technically be like, well, I can't really say an extension of the downtown, but similarly.
That one's across the street from residential homes, 1 or 2 family homes.
It's, I think as you go right next to it, there's family homes.
I'd have to see it, but I don't know that that's 6 stories either. But no, Ridgewood, I have not gone to that. But I have gone to all the towns around us, and I do urge you, look at Kinderkamak Road and Hackensack. That one's in the process of being built. Take a look, stand there, look at it from Route 4, and then
Well,
picture it
I
being
will say, you know, I don't know exactly how many stories Ridgewood was, but it did do a nice job of blending. It's long, just like this one is proposed. You know, it does go up and down like this one is proposed. And I didn't feel that it was overly dense. But again, I got to go back and count the stories. So I wasn't uncomfortable with that look and feel. So just, you know, and I do believe that that was bordering homes.
And Councilwoman Dayton, just Ridgewood's a good, I'm sorry, I just want to say that that's a good example because they've approved a second, I can find it also, the stories, but I know someone who's building another apartment building there, and it's definitely above 4 stories, but I could also find out and get that to you guys. There's a second apartment, there's a second rental apartment building there they've approved there. I don't know if it's up yet, but.
Okay. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, what are your thoughts?
You know, I just, you know, obviously I hear some concerns about height. You know, that's understandable. Love the hotel. Couldn't agree more that we need a really vibrant hotel. My whole thing is I don't like building in, you know, on places that are, you know, natural lands and, you know, overdevelopment in the sense of places that have trees that you'd have to cut down. So I actually view this as, you know, fairly desirable in the sense of that it's on a place that you're not, you know, clear cutting any forests to put a development on. So like I like that. But at the same time, I think Councilman Grossman's points well taken, Councilman Menon, and I know Councilwoman Dayton saying the same thing about concerns about height. 6 stories is pretty tall. Yeah, it's and I do pass the one that Councilman Grossman's talking about every morning, the 4-story one over in Inglewood on my way to work. Yeah, and that's a substantive building, and that's a tall building, and you know, but that would be doable. I really think that to go up to 6, it would be a little rough, but I'd be open to, you know, hearing what comes about, you know, in this stuff. But I want to say that, you know, I'm open to development in areas that already, you know, are able to be developed. You know, not that there wasn't nature there, you know, at least recently. At one point, it was all nature, but so I hear what you're saying. I just think 6 stories is a bit of a big pill to swallow. So I'm just kind of in a wait and see mode and see where the discussions take this.
Okay.
Can I just say, just to add, so I looked it up. The building that I'm actually talking about is actually called the Dayton, so pretty funny. And that's in Ridgewood. Just wanted to throw it out there. So if anyone wants to look up, and it does higher and lower elevations, which might be something for all of us to consider. So it's not a straight 6 foot across. Some of it's 6 and some of it's 4 and so forth. So that's the one I was thinking of, but I'm laughing because it's actually called the Dayton.
I think you secretly knew what it was called, and that's why you did it, personally.
It's funny.
Just kidding. Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor. Councilman Park, what are your thoughts?
Just to echo everyone else's great project, great idea, but the 4 is probably as high as we can go.
Okay. Jeff Zen, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Jeff Zen is the planning board attorney. Jeff, do you have comments? What are the not to pit you and Wendy against each other, but what do you perceive are the next steps here so that the developer can kind of take all the council members' questions in and kind of head off to the planning board to actually get the work started with the details?
So Mayor, let me, if I may, take 20 seconds to go back and give everyone where we are procedurally on this.
Yes, please.
So we've been meeting with the Clinton Inn folks since at least 2018. And there are a variety of reasons why it's taken so long, probably chief among which it's a difficult site to develop. Long, narrow, it's got the stream behind it. In September 2019, this council passed a resolution authorizing the planning board to study whether the area was in need of redevelopment. Planning board did that, made a recommendation to the mayor and council that the area be determined to be in need of redevelopment. In March 2020, the council agreed with that determination and authorized the planning board to prepare a redevelopment plan. We cannot prepare a redevelopment plan until we have some basic understanding of the concept plan that the developer wants. And we've waited to get to this point because the purpose of a redevelopment plan is to come to an understanding between the redeveloper, what they want and what they need, and what the borough wants and what the borough needs, and to come to an eventual agreement in terms of a redevelopment plan. We received this concept plan that you have from the redeveloper, and we looked at this and we thought this is something that we can work with to craft a redevelopment plan based upon this concept plan. Understand, you know, the comments that many of you made, Councilman Michaels, Councilman Dayton, about engineering and things, these are not by any stretch of the imagination finalized, nor architecture in terms of Councilman Menon, in terms of breaking up the appearance of the look and the mass of the building. But we thought that this was a concept plan that we could start to work with to develop a redevelopment plan. However, if this concept plan didn't pass muster at this stage with the council, then there was no point to even start the work because a redevelopment plan would be prepared by the planning board. And that would then go to mayor and council to adopt that redevelopment plan as an ordinance. And that would be create the new zoning for the property in effect. So that's why the mayor has come to you today and said, look at this concept plan. What are your thoughts? What are your comments? So that we know whether we can go and start to work on a redevelopment plan based upon this concept plan. And if I may take just another 20 seconds to explain why we thought this was a workable concept plan. I'm not necessarily advocating for this, but I just want you to understand what the rationale was in terms of height and some other things. But in terms of height, one of the two main factors was the topography, the fact that this is really located in a valley and you have, you know, that the big hill to the east. So it's not as if you're all on level flat land and you've got this 6-story building jutting out. The other issue was, as I alluded to before, it's a very tight parcel to develop. One of the things we've always maintained with the developer is, you know, you must maintain the hotel, either a new hotel or maintain this hotel. And so there's a hotel and an assisted living facility. And I think you have to be a little bit mindful that they're also got a stream behind them, that they have to stay off of that stream. And so therefore the development doesn't have as much land as they would necessarily or might want to develop. And therefore that also causes a developer to go up higher. those were some of the reasons why we thought that this may be workable as a concept plan. But again, mayor and council will ultimately have to adopt the redevelopment plan. And if there's no appetite for it, then we shouldn't go down that path at this point.
Jeff, can I ask you a question, Jeff Zen?
Sure, Lauren,
So would the planning board need to, or this developer need to apply to the DEP here
apply to the DEP?
for
Yeah,
building so close to the brook?
I believe they would need a stream encroachment permit.
Just let me answer. Yeah, Councilwoman Dayton, yes, we would eventually need to apply to the DEP. And we've discussed that. We've discussed some of those implications with Dave Halls, with the borough engineer. It is something as part of the process. But we believe with our footprint that we have, and I think Jeff explained our limitations excellently, that we have a buffer that we have to keep away from. He calls it a brook, I call it a ditch. But potatoes, tomato, whatever.
The DEP calls it a stream. So.
Whatever, stream, whatever it is.
So.
Sure. So yes, Lauren, we will need to apply to DEP.
So this is very much like the previous discussion we had, except at a higher level, with United Way, right? The council has questions about and concerns over height, bulk, water, DEP, all this sort of stuff. There's comments about traffic being made, engineering. This is what we kind of need the planning board to work through. If we like the idea of the hotel and we like the idea of a assisted living facility in some sort of format, then we should essentially send this off to the planning board to start working on the details. And, Andrew has heard and Bill has heard the council's comments, and our planning board attorney has heard the comments, and this is the message we've delivered to them. And so really the next step is to start to task the planning board with putting the details together.
Can I just add one more thing?
Of course.
For the guests and residents on both buildings, will the parking spots be future ready with electric chargers?
Yes, and I think I also mentioned this to Councilwoman Dayton at the, or maybe it was Councilman Grossman, I can't remember, but we're also focused on solar panels on the roofs of both buildings. These roofs are, there's a nice coverage. They're very large roofs in terms of size. So we are very cognizant of environmental impact. I can tell you that Spring Hills as a company does unbelievable things. So I know I'm elaborating a little bit more, Dan, than just the chargers, but there's a lot of things that that Spring Hills does as a mandate to keep environmental impact down, like majorly, with insulation above and beyond what is required, solar panels, geothermal. It goes on and on. And anytime you'd like to discuss that with me, I'd be happy to present that, because it is a very important mandate of the company.
Oh, on that topic, there's I want to say a point system. I forget if it's called LEED or something for environmental friendly buildings. Do you guys follow that then?
We do not
apply to lead, but I think we exceed it. We'd probably be in lead gold pretty quick.
Excellent. Good to hear.
Bill's here. I think we're pretty much off the scale on it. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we hit
Awesome
on the project.
Awesome. Very cool.
But anytime you want to talk about that in more detail, I'm always happy to. It's a cool thing. So cool stuff.
Okay, so Jeff, is this the next step? What is the process for sending it off to the planning board to start going through the details and putting their feet to the fire here?
Well, there already is a resolution authorizing the planning board to prepare a redevelopment plan. So there's no further authorization needed. We just needed to know or have some understanding that we can work off of this concept plan, at least as a starting point, to prepare a redevelopment plan that both the borough and the redeveloper can be satisfied with.
Well, I mean, I think you've heard the council's comments tonight. Height, DEP, bulk, water, street traffic.
Those typical issues, like I say, this is a concept plan. Access, circulation, we haven't even begun to look at that. The drainage yet, they'll all be explored, will be satisfied, and even architecture, because this will be a prominent piece of Tenafly, and so even things such as architecture will be agreed to in a redevelopment plan, so that the borough knows exactly what it's getting, the redeveloper knows exactly what it's getting.
Okay, so then let's.
And Mark, if I can, just one more piece. I think that there are council members who know this, but in case anyone doesn't know it, I just want to put it out there. So the redeveloper also has requested a pilot in connection with the redevelopment plan, which is not untypical. Right now, it's a generic request. The developer understands that it will have to come to the council with specific projections of what the project will generate in terms of rents, in terms of a pilot, and we'll compare that to what the property is currently generating. So there's nothing specific on the table, so let's not get into it beyond the generic. And just in case anyone is not clear, the minimum base for a pilot is what the property is currently generating today. So.
Okay, so if we send this, we're going to send this off to the planning board. Just for clarity's sake, the council is not, by sending this to the planning board, we're not making or committing to any decision here whatsoever, correct?
The council has already authorized the planning board to go forward with this. We can now prepare a redevelopment plan. The redevelopment plan ultimately has to be adopted by mayor and council.
Okay. All right. I think you've heard everyone's comments here, so let's be sure the planning board understands exactly. And there's two of us here that sit on the planning board, so it's all of our responsibilities to deliver these concerns and comments to the planning board. Okay, Jeff, any other comments? You good?
That's it for me, unless you have any further questions.
No, unless anyone does. Bill and Andrew, thank you for being here this evening, and we appreciate the work you put into it and the work we know you're going to be putting into it with the planning board.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for having us.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Bill. Good night, Andrew. And Jeff, thank you for being here tonight. Do you need to stay on for anything else this evening?
I don't think so, unless Jimmy tells me I need to.
Well, you're always welcome to join us. You know that.
Is Councilman Michaels gonna is he gonna, just on a different note, is he gonna report on our trikes for Tenafly? Because I want to make sure he gets all the glory
Later on this
for our unbelievable success yesterday.
later on this evening, he will, towards the end of the
Oh, I
evening.
can't wait. You send me that video. I can't wait. All right. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. All right. The next on the agenda is the Recreation Department and Youth Services merger. Just to tee this up a little, and then we'll have a conversation about it. You know, we've been discussing this for several years now, the idea of merging the two departments together. The budgets, the council has already merged the budgets together. So that's moving along. And, you know, there's lots of reasons. We've all talked about this. You know, the economics behind it, streamlining the process and some of the efficiencies we'll gain. And of course, most importantly, is the service. The services to the community as always the number one priority, and we're always looking for ways to increase that service to the community. You know, several months ago, I've lost track of time, 6-9 months ago, the committee has been working on this and discussing it with Councilman Menon, Councilman Grossman, Jimmy, and Alicia, and really at this point, and Wendy will jump in at some point with the next steps on the process, but effectively, you know, at this stage, we're talking about having one director, title to be determined, that oversees the entire group. Jeff, do you want to add some comments in here, since you know, you were one of the key members on the committee?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So my comments are both for the members of the council and the members of the public, because this has been something we've been talking about for, I've lost count, probably 3 years at this point. Let me start out by saying this is not and I know individuals within these different departments are possibly impacted. They're both wonderful people. This is not about people. This is not about personnel. This is about programs and really trying to make programs more efficient for our residents. I mean, we have a whole slew of kids that are pre-K, because I know my kids were in T-ball starting literally as 4-year-olds, right through at least 8th grade. At that point, a lot of the programming gets handed off to the high school. And what we were talking about is that it would be nicer if this were a more seamless process. Because really what we're doing is having two different parts of our town, a rec center or recreation group and a teen group. And I know our schools do it, but here there's a lot of overlap. And so trying to make it a little more seamless so we could provide better services for families in town and especially for our youth. So we've done this before in other parts of the town, of combining to make things work better. For example, very few people probably know, we used to have Department of Public Works and a completely separate Parks Department. And the two were separated. And at some point, someone came up with the idea that DPW does a lot of work on parks, and there's a lot of overlap here, potential for overlap. We have great directors, but we're not looking at the people, we're looking at the programs, and we combine the two, and it has really led to greater efficiency in our ability to maintain roads and parks at the same time. We also did the same thing more recently with Buildings Department and Code Enforcement. Code Enforcement enforces what the building department basically decides, but they were separate. And sometimes it makes sense to look at how do we combine things to provide our residents with better programming and not having to go to two places to get basically the same service. So that's what we're looking at here. It's complicated because we do have a number of programs that each one runs, but we are looking at a way to merge them, to combine them, so that, yes, when you go from 5th grade to 6th grade, and I know Council President Dayton is going through this right now. She had someone in her family do that jump.
Adam.
But sports programs don't make that jump. So if you're playing softball, if you're playing soccer, if you're playing baseball, you're still in the rec program as you go into 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But at the same time, you're now going into some other program run by somebody else. And it would be nice if there was more of a unified youth services, basically, for our kids under one roof, instead trying to figure out, okay, I want my kid to go to the teen center and do this, so I gotta deal with this, but at the same time, I want them to play soccer, so I gotta deal there. And that's really what we're looking at. We are not looking at anything past that. We would like to see some sort of a structure, and when I say we, I mean the committee. And I would urge the council to consider this, that some sort of structure where you have one person for this umbrella, over this whole umbrella. How that ultimately looks, that's something we need to hash out, but to have one umbrella instead of two, protecting our kids, would be nice. That's one part of it. The other part of it is that there are times that one of the two rec or youth center are short-staffed due to sickness, whatever, resignations, change in staff. It would be nice to have the ability to be more fungible and not have an employee that we can't move easily. And you know, we have directors who are really good and cooperative now, but I can't guarantee that going forward. I can't say that that's always. We are trying to plan really for what is the best model. And you might have one saying, no, you can't have my employee. And they'd have every right to do that without getting our borough administrator involved, who would then have to play daddy to two of his agencies and say, okay, I'm moving this person over. And it's not as easy as it sounds. This would allow for, on days, better training across for our people and better ability to have move people around to make better adjustments to our programs, especially on days when things are not good. That's what we're looking at. I will tell you, I personally have spoken with the both directors to get a sense of the programs. My kids, I mentioned council president, my kids both went through both programs. My kids have been involved in this. I'm sure any of you who are parents, you've either had kids go through it or are involved in it. And we are sensitive to that. And what we are trying to do is provide better services for you. We're trying to provide something more seamless. We're trying to provide one-stop shopping so you don't have to run back and forth. And this way there can be better coordination and better ways of looking really what are the best programs all the way from pre-K all the way up to at least 8th grade. And even looking, we do need someone to look at when we talk about teens. Teens go up to 19 last I checked. Most of those are in college, but do we need something, or would it be best? What can we do that the high school's not addressing that we could supplement? And I know our directors look at it, but we don't look at it fully linearly. So I hope that explains where the committee is coming from, what our thoughts are. Again, it's not so much about people. I know that people are involved. I understand that. This is really about how do we improve all of our services for residents. In this case, how do we improve our services for our youth, and our youth being literally, as I said, pre-K through all the teen years. And we are open to suggestions, but think of that as the end goal, and how we get there is up to this collective body. And I love input from everybody, not just the council, but our neighbors and friends who have had kids go through this or are going through it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Grossman. Councilman Menon, you're a significant part of this committee also. Do you have any comments you'd like to follow up with? Questions?
I'm so overwhelmed by Councilman Grossman's commentary. I leave it at what he said. He summarized it beautifully. I think you know, the idea is to have you know, to look at what is best for the kids in the town, and how they can interact with our programs, and to make it efficient and or more efficient than you know, so they have an excellent experience. So just that's all I want to add.
Okay.
Can I ask Jeff a question?
Sure.
Who's Dan? Go ahead, please.
You were talking about the 6th grade to 7th grade transition. Can you give an example of what the two? We have to go here for this, you have to go there for that. What do you mean by that? Like an
I
example.
said 5th grade to 6th grade, not 6th to 7th. So from elementary to middle school. So let's say you have a 6th grader now. I know lots of people with 6th graders now. They want to continue playing soccer, or they want to continue playing softball. They go to rec. They want to be involved in games or hang out at the teen center. They got to go to the teen center. It's a different group of people. And so what does, you know, if you want to know, especially as a parent, if I want to know what does the teen center do, I got to go to the teen center. If I want to know what programs are available through rec, I got to go through rec. Why are we making our residents go to 2 different places is my whole question. But I hope that explains where you might end up having 2 different places to go.
Yeah, I get that, but I see what your concern is. But the way I see it is like, there's a fire at my house, I'm gonna go to the fire department, not the police department. It's 2 different types of service. One is a drop-off area for games and hanging out, and you know, just hanging out. The other is for sports and rec. I get what you're saying, though.
Yeah, also to that point, Councilman Park, I didn't mention this and I should have. You know, they both run camps. And they're running parallel camps, and there's a lot of work, and we don't have one person who sits there and looks at camp programming. And maybe that ultimately you can argue that's good that one runs a teen camp and someone totally different, but you know, think about Ramapo, Ramakoy, all the camps around. You have one person who's figuring out how to best transition from one age to the next through the camps, and we don't have that.
Dan, since go ahead.
I would say that's a good thing, since it's 2 age demographics with completely different interests. One is a teen group. They're not going to be playing with the 5th graders, doing whatever games they're doing with arts and crafts and everything in the younger age summer camp. So I see that as a good thing.
Well, I'm not saying the camps should be combined, although, I mean, having been on the Little League board, I know that 5th and 6th graders play Little League together. They are in the same division. I don't know other sports as well, but we do combine them. And the 5th graders learn from the 6th graders, and it also gives them opportunities to learn about life in the middle school and to know people when they get there. So we actually do have that. I'm not saying the camp should be in the same spot, but the way we're organizing it, even we have 2 totally different systems of organizing, which is a lot more work. I just think that we should be looking for greater efficiencies for our kids. That's all. I'll leave it to others. I hope I answered your question, Councilman, and they're great questions.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Dan, you have other questions or comments, Dan, since we're on you?
No, that was the main question.
Okay. Councilwoman Dr. O'Connor, questions, comments?
No, just curious to hear from, I know I see a lot of public is on the call as well. And like Councilman Grossman said, just want to, have them weigh in. I just do want to thank the committee for their work, because I know these transitions are hard, to work on and to work all the details out. And I just also want to take this opportunity to thank the directors of the programs that we're talking about, because, we have an amazing resource that both of my kids have taken advantage of for many years. So I do appreciate the work that is getting done in the town.
Councilman Michaels, what are your thoughts?
Sure. First, thank you to Councilman Menon and Grossman for leading this. Obviously, you guys are closer to it and have gone through the diligence. For me and from my experience, org design is important, but learned from some pretty cool people that org design without following it up with cultural changes, technology changes, and others, the org design isn't going to work. So, again, you guys are closest to it. But I do hope before we finalize any organizational designs, underneath that is cultural, technological. And I think that's a huge thing. And I know Jamie's leading some efforts now, but that's a huge unlock for our community and other areas. So I'm sure there's a broader piece there. I would like to see, after the council goes through, and I like Dr. O'Connor's recommendation. I know there are a lot of people on for the public. I'd rather not have them have to wait for the public session, because I assume a lot of it has to do with this. So if we can make an exception and have the public speak, that'd be great as well, Mr. Mayor.
Well, keep in mind, council members, this is not a public hearing, right? This is a discussion.
Right, they speak after the dog park. They're already listed on the agenda. Yeah.
Absolutely, there's public comment, but this isn't a public hearing, right? This is about, council's having a conversation about if they want to take this the next steps forward. And then Wendy will talk about that after the council members weigh in. And one of the steps is having a public hearing. So that's the process, right? So anyway, but public comment will be shortly. Councilwoman Dayton, your questions or comments?
I want to take a moment to thank Vinu and Jeff for doing this very methodically. I know they've spent enormous amounts of time analyzing this from many different viewpoints. So this is not a rash overnight decision, just so the public understands. This has been many ongoing conversations and interviews with families, residents, our staff, our employees. So thank you for all that hard work. Jeff, you're right. My daughter's playing soccer with 4th, 5th, and 6th right now. She's in middle school, and she's sort of one foot in either direction. But I want to talk about something differently. I want to talk about the camps. And I think that one of the reasons that we were looking into this reorg was to significantly advance our programming in the camps, and what can we do? And how can we get focus on that so that we are building just a wonderful camp for our residents? And I was really excited in the org chart proposed to see that that was a huge focus of this merger concept. I think that it gives somebody complete ownership. And I agree. I mean, my daughter in 6th grade, she plays with both 5th and 7th graders. So, to have just a better transition, to have a better continuity of programming and oversight, and someone seeing that through, I was really excited about that. I'm excited to develop more team programming, weekend events, team nights, pizza nights. I know we're doing that now, and it's great, and I'm excited for more of it. And I do think this will be efficiencies, both efficiencies in terms of staffing and coverage for both recreation and for youth. So again, I'm for the merger, and thank you. Thank you for all the work.
Okay, thank you, Councilwoman Dayton. All right, so Wendy, could you help us understand the next steps here? How does the process work?
Sure, Mayor. So as you know, a lot of this gets codified into our ordinances. So the first step would be to move forward with an ordinance that would provide for all these services to be under one umbrella, and whatever that umbrella name would be, or whatever that position that the committee and then the council is looking to implement to oversee this big umbrella, that would all be codified into an ordinance. And as you correctly pointed out, any ordinance requires a public hearing. So first step would be, for example, we would have an ordinance proposed to the governing body for the next meeting, which I believe is October 5th. And then the public hearing would be after introduction of the ordinance at a subsequent meeting, usually, I guess, 2 weeks later. That second reading of any ordinance always has the public hearing and also allows for additional public comment as to how that position and umbrella is going to be set forth in our code book.
And that's when we hash out all the details amongst the council and the public.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
go ahead.
Procedural question. When would we have a table of organization to work off of for this merger idea? Because I don't think it's going to actually solve anything.
So, Wendy, would we have that at the October 5th meeting? Or not really?
Insofar
I would want the table of org, but way before that.
Go ahead, Wendy.
Right. So insofar as the positions are ones that are going to be set forth in the ordinance, that would be defined in there, but certain lesser positions, as you all know, are set forth in your salary ordinance. They're not set forth in the structure of rec department, youth services, those ordinances. So there are pieces that would be there, Councilman Park, but there's pieces that would not.
Right, but that would still affect the budget if we added FTEs or removed FTEs.
Correct.
So it's a bigger question, obviously.
Right. So the budget purposes, you know, these changes would need to go in effect for 2022. Not because your 2021 budget has already been adopted. So these are all forward-thinking changes.
So we would still have time till a second readings in December before the new council takes over, correct?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? It cut out a little bit.
The second reading would have to be before December, or December 31st, technically.
Correct. Correct. And likely a little bit more in advance of that because of any, you know, if you are looking to add any FTEs, you would want time to be able to advertise and search for them.
To your point, Dan, effectively, we're talking about 2022, right?
Right. But I still need to see a proposed table, new positions, what efficiencies will be done, program overlap, the whole nine, before even an ordinance is introduced.
So, right, this is back to everything else we've been talking about tonight. It's chicken and the egg stuff, right? So we'll have the proposed, and Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, but the council will have that for the conversation on the 5th, correct? They'll know what they're voting on.
Correct, Mayor. So basically, having now heard the council's feedback as to what the committee has presented, it gives the opportunity for Labor Council, Ruby and I, to be able to work together, and for Alicia, your HR director, to be able to start actually putting pieces together to present the finalized puzzle pieces in one shape. And then the council would have that in hand before they would be making decisions.
Okay. Makes sense, Dan?
Kind of.
Yeah. Pardon me, close enough? Okay. Okay. All right, so Wendy, you're clear on that then?
Yes, Mayor, I'll coordinate with Alicia and with Ruby and Jimmy to start moving things forward to present to the council.
Okay.
A question, and this is for Jeff and Vanu. Didn't the committee propose an org chart? Haven't we reviewed an org chart? Is that what that org chart still the same?
Councilman Menon, I'll let you take that since you, or I could let Alicia take it, either of you, since.
Sure. Yeah, and I'm happy to let Alicia and Jeff chime in as well. But I mean, we had a preliminary org chart suggested, and then in our discussions over the past several months, we looked into alternatives if we wanted to change that. And so I think we will. Nothing has significantly changed because we went through many of the iterations, and I think we pretty much came back to the same suggestion. But that will be put out, I guess, at the next meeting or prior.
Can you send that to Omar with all any other findings you had from the committee so we can share with the council, please?
Sure.
Yes, we'll take care of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Omar, you have that?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay.
That comes with each department's responsibilities and everything, job titles, their responsibilities, the whole nine.
In terms of what do you mean, like every detail on the org chart? No, that's how we have to get into.
No, what the two departments, where they're finding their efficiencies.
Well, yeah,
Rec runs softball, youth does not,
correct.
youth runs this, rec does this, and then it's a chart
Correct.
of where they're overlapping.
Yeah, the org chart has titles on it, so you can see what's going on.
As well as what each department does to see where the efficiencies are. Like a list, like rec runs this sport, this sport, this sport, youth runs the same sport, so there's an overlap. That kind of.
Right,
Org
so
chart, though. That's like the job descriptions that we need to
org
develop.
chart, the org chart is the org chart. The org chart is the org chart. I want to see what the two departments, what they do on a day-to-day basis.
Right. The org chart is not going to get down to the level of who's the coach on the softball game. It doesn't get down to that level. It's not an org chart. That's got to do with job descriptions. What?
Which we don't need. We don't need to know who's coaching.
Right. It doesn't get that granular. Like we talked about, it's the org chart, job descriptions, all that sort of stuff. So we understand where we're going, where we're proposing to go.
Right, and that'll be forthcoming now that we have some feedback, and I'm sure there'll be more feedback from the public. And obviously, nothing has been put into a final form. Everything's still in draft work product. So as soon as there's more feedback and direction for the professionals to move with, we will certainly do that and then distribute it for comment.
Question for Alicia. Alicia, do you happen to have the complete job descriptions of what each level in both departments do now?
I have the current job description, Councilman Dayton, for both departments, yes. I do not have, in terms of what they do in terms of coaches, each activity, I do not have that, no.
It doesn't have to be specific, but like just a generic things they run, things they're responsible for as like a department overview.
I can secure that for you, Councilman, but that would take some time.
I can tell you, this is Labor Council, Dan. I do have that comparison chart. I think I know what you're talking about. So I do have a comparison chart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, I don't want to lose the point, and Alicia is the expert at this. You know, as part of this, again, to me, org design is the 53rd thing that you should be looking at. You know, I don't know if there are ideas or what we're thinking about cultural things we should be doing differently, or technological things we should be doing differently, or other things that are going to enhance, because I think we all agree that the goal is to increase the services all the organizations provide, as the mayor said in the beginning, you know, better service to our residents. That's the goal. So I would hope some of those other things are included in this proposal.
Okay, any other comments from council members? Okay, so Wendy, Alicia, Ruby, Jimmy, you have clarity on packaging this for the council to review details prior to October 5th and then up for October 5th, right?
Yes, Mayor.
Yes, Mayor.
Okay,
Yes, Mayor.
all right. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next thing on to be considered is the dog park recommendation.
Vaccine policy, Mayor. You skipped
Pardon
one,
me?
sorry. The COVID vaccine policy.
No, okay, no, there's a reason I
Alicia.
skipped it. Alicia, can you jump in here, please, for what you brought to my attention earlier this evening?
Absolutely, Mayor. So I'm sure everyone has heard by now that the President Biden put out a mandate stating that moving forward, all government entities and businesses with 100 or more employees will be required to have the vaccine or to test weekly, pending OSHA guidance. So we decided as a unit to wait for the guidance from OSHA before we release out any information regarding moving forward with the COVID vaccine mandate. So we're going to wait to hear that guidance from OSHA so our communication be on part. Thank you.
Any council members have questions about that? No? Okay. All right, let's move on to the dog park proposal. Jimmy, you want to take us through this here?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mayor. A group of scouts had approached the mayor and myself and with a proposal for updates and upgrades to be done at the dog park. We met with them and suggested they meet with the dog park committee and also to give them their proposal and present their proposal to the committee, which they have. And now after that proposal, the dog park committee met among themselves after the presentation of the scouts proposal and had to come up with recommendations of the proposal from the scouts. For mayor and council, just consideration, I have members from the scouts and from the dog park committee on tonight. At the mayor, as the mayor feels appropriate to lead this discussion based on the recommendations from the dog park committee to the mayor and council.
Okay, let me just, I'm going to interject just for a second. Typically, we would take a presentation, but the council was given presentations in greater detail because it looks like it's been cut down a little bit based on the dog park committee's recommendations. Does the council want to go right into questions from council members about this?
Are there anyone from this proposal online right now?
Yeah, Jimmy just said that there is. Who's here, Jimmy?
Yeah, Christine Everon is here, and I believe there is Gabriel Gutierrez from the Scouts, Jamie Gutierrez from the Scouts, and I apologize, I believe Andrew Eaton as well from the Scouts.
Okay, Lauren, Councilwoman Dayton, there you go. Questions?
Can I ask a question? Because that has been kind of an overriding issue here. So the dog park, I know this came up last time. It's in a location that we might, in fact, be moving around or working with, in the old swim club area. And I was a little concerned when I saw some things that I didn't want the scouts to do something and then have it undone if we have to, work in that area a little more. Like, so for example, the benches that I saw mentioned, like, are those things movable? That's what I wanted to check, so maybe the gentleman could answer that.
Councilwoman, before he answers that question, excellent question. I just want to throw out there that it's very likely going to be several years, by the time planning, financial commitment, engineering, DEP, permitting, all that stuff comes together before any major changes happen over there. So just keep that in mind. It's not like they're going to do this work in 6 months and now it's all for naught. It's going to take a significant amount of time to think about the project we're doing over on for the assisted for the COA housing on Serpentine. What that's probably taken close to 3 years to acquire all those properties, and same sort of thing with the Clinton Inn. So far, 3 years, and we haven't even put a shovel in the ground yet. So
Yeah,
I just want to throw that.
Right. I do agree with Councilwoman O'Connor. So I'm hoping and praying that what we want to do at the dog park is not the equivalent of building skyscrapers. I know I don't know if Andy's on the line. Is Andy on the line?
Andy Hippolyte?
Yeah.
He might be, but he might not be this early. He's going to be on probably.
No. I mean, I've been trying to get with him. He's owed us stuff, which he hasn't been delivering on, and I know he always gets confused every time I ask him questions on the dog park, and he changes his answers every time as well. But I hope we could put some stuff down sooner rather than later. So I agree. I think all the stuff in the park and if the scouts, if it makes sense, I agree with Councilwoman O'Connor that it should be movable. I'm hoping we do stuff and we're not sitting on our hands for the next 3 years doing nothing in that space.
Right. I'm not suggesting it not be movable. All I'm suggesting is it's not going to be imminently changed within the next 6 months. That's my point. That's all.
Yep.
So go ahead. Julie, did you have a question for the scouts, or was it Lauren?
Right. So my question was about the benches, because I was looking at the hyperlink plan. I saw that they want the basketball court, repainted. I wasn't sure about that, but if that was necessary. But I wanted to know about that other bench work and those things. Are those things movable? That feedback from the dog park.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Go for it.
So, all right. Sorry I can't turn on my camera right now. I would if I could, but I'm on my phone and my computer's just not wanting to work with me, so I'm sorry for that.
Don't worry about it.
All right. So, all right. Thank you guys, first of all, for having me on here alongside with my 2 other scouts, and I'll kind of just answer your questions right now. So, right off the bat, for my proposal, the benches that I was proposing were typical picnic benches, and they would be movable. So I'm not going to I'm not going to put some cement in the ground. Definitely, I'm not going to be doing that. Because like you guys have been saying, you guys have plans for the future, and definitely what we are planning on, what we're planning to implement is kind of temporary, and just to kind of raise the quality of the overall dog park while it's there, while the preparations for the renovations in the future would, I guess, occur. So yeah, definitely benches, not going to be in the ground, definitely movable. And you mentioned something about the basketball hoop as well. That was also a part of my section. Can I just hear that part one more time? Because I don't remember the question.
Well, on the feedback from the dog park committee for your thing, they talked about repainting the basketball courts and I guess fixing the hoop. And I guess I just had some, I wasn't sure if that was something we wanted to do in that space, because again, it is such a dynamic area that we've been discussing. But, that might be more of a question for us than you, because I think our concern has always been that you are working on something for your Eagle Scout project that we don't want to have be a waste of time. If we had to, let's say we move the entire basketball court, so that was just my concern about that. But
well, the way I see it is kind of just like I know I'm doing something that people are going to be using and people are going to be enjoying it for the time being. And that's really all that I'm, I guess, eager for. what I think the project is kind of for. It's kind of for the experience, for a I guess to kind of learn how to manage a project and kind of alongside figure out some hiccups that can go across the way and how to kind of accommodate for that. And even with plans in the future, I know that I'll be doing good in my part in improving the stuff that's already there for the time being. So that's my take on it. And I know for myself that like if it's just implementing benches that will be that could be transferred to a different location, I know that people will have used them and have benefited from them being there alongside renovating part of the basketball court that people will be using for the time being. So thank you.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
have a
Well said.
question.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, Dr. O'Connor. I have a question for all the Eagle Scouts. One of the things that I actually was very excited about was the agility equipment. That is something I think that would be unique in comparison to other dog parks. And I do think that that would be something that would bring people to this space. I see that the dog park committee sort of doesn't recommend that, and I'd like to hear a little bit about that discussion.
Oh, I want to add something to this. Apparently, maybe I said something by mistake, but there seems to be this notion that the dog park equipment will be drilled into the ground or attached to the ground, and that is not the case. That from what I heard, that was the committee's complaint, and that's
No, that was not the concern.
oh really? Oh, sorry.
No, not at all.
Christine, please let him finish. Christine,
I'm
let him
sorry.
finish, please.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you had. I
Oh, no,
apologize.
it's fine. I was told that's what the complaint was. Sorry.
To the Eagle Scouts, if this committee is interested in agility, is that still something that you are interested in as part of the Eagle Scout project?
Well, personally, the agility equipment is my area. Absolute. Sorry. Absolutely. I feel the agility equipment would be interesting. It would. I feel like it would. Aside from basic exercise for dogs, it just it livens up of the place. Yeah. Anyway.
Are you finished? I just wanted
Sorry.
to
Yes.
clarify that for Lauren.
Thank you, Christine.
Hi. We had that discussion without the Boy Scouts there. There were two concerns. The one is that the high use of the park makes it rather crowded in the enclosed dog park areas. And we felt that the agility equipment would make it more difficult for the dogs to run around and use a relatively small area. The second is that I have gone around extensively to other parks that do have agility equipment, and it is very, very rarely used. So between the small area, which was our primary concern, and the low usage, we didn't feel that that was really a good place to concentrate on.
Okay, other questions from council members?
Another question for the Eagle Scouts, and that was about the benches that go around the trees. And first of all, I love to see that there's actually woodworking in this. I know you guys did the last Eagle Scouts did beautiful woodworking in the Churchill Preserve. So I was very excited about that. I think that really is a nice touch. So I wanted to hear how it attaches to the tree.
Go ahead, Scouts. How's it attached to the tree? Which scout? Go ahead.
That was a little bit more of, I guess, like Andrew's section of it.
Yeah,
but Andrew, are you there?
Yes. Sorry, I'm still.
All right, there. No worries. Go ahead.
It wouldn't. Apologize. Got a bit of a cold. It wouldn't really attach to the tree as much as we would build these sort of we would build these four circular-ish benches that would just sort of wrap around the tree. It wouldn't necessarily wouldn't necessarily connect directly to it.
So there'd be
I
no
did think that
bolts
they
or
were some of the, sorry, I just thought it was one of the most beautiful aspects of this proposal. So I was very excited
Thank you.
about it.
Yeah, it'll probably touch the tree, but it's not directly attached to it with like bolts or anything.
other questions from council members? All right, any of the dog park committee members want to weigh in?
We did want to thank the Boy Scouts for the tremendous work they put into these proposals. We think it's great that they're helping to improve the town like this. And we were very appreciative of all the things they offered.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Vinu, please.
So I just wanted to show my appreciation to the Scouts for proposing this, and I just kind of second the idea that that there are that it is there is the potential for change within the Tenafly Swim Club. And if there's, so these things that are being done should be portable. So like, for example, signs, obviously those could be moved from place to place. The benches could, but, to look at the project with that in mind. And, just take that into consideration. So this is just to echo what Dr. O'Connor said. And that's it. Well, I think it's wonderful. And if there are other projects that might work better if it doesn't touch the Tenafly Swim Club, that's also, I mean, I know that this has been given a lot of thought, but if there are other projects, maybe consider something else instead. But if not, I just have this portable if necessary.
All right.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
I have a comment about the town sign. I was told that that the Boy Scouts are not going to be working on that, correct? Is that correct?
Who told you that?
I remember reading it in an email when we were conversing back and
What
forth.
was the question?
But that we're not going to be working on the sign. Jimmy, what's the issue with that?
I believe the Scouts were going to be allowed to do that.
Mayor,
Okay.
I think the proposed idea was that the Public Works Department or the borough would do it to be consistent with the other borough signs in terms of design and format.
I'd like to mention that I've done my research over what the signs, what company made the sign. I know what company made the sign. I would like to try and make it as similar to the other signs as possible.
Using the same.
Using the same company, using the same resources and everything. I know how much it'll cost roughly. I'd like to try and maybe convince you to reconsider and let the Boy Scouts do it.
I do remember seeing that in your initial proposal that you would take into consideration how the current sign looks and try to imitate or duplicate the process. So I mean, I would be in favor of it if unless we have a contractual reason for why we need DPW to order the signs.
All right. So, I mean, very good point, Vinu. I mean, Jimmy, I think that it sounds like the Scouts can move forward with this sign. You've heard the Scouts and the comments from the dog park committee and the concerns. Everything movable. The sign question has to be addressed. So, Jimmy, it sounds like you can you can go offline with the scouts, taking in mind what the council has voiced their concerns over, especially the portability and the movability of everything here.
Of course, sounds great. We'll do.
Just before we move on, Mayor,
Yes, of course.
when we talk about sign identifying, are we talking, I remember seeing it in the memo, but I can't at this hour remember. Are we talking about a sign identifying the entire facility or a sign identifying the dog park specifically?
I believe there's going to be a sign for the entire thing, and with the changeable slot, like at Borough Hall, it says, I forget what ours says, but it lists the different locations within a bigger location.
All right, I will add then that because of a referral from this council to the HPC of young gentleman, Aki Benjamin, we've been having discussions at the HPC about should there be a particular name for this park rather than the old Tenafly Swim Club Park. And that has not been determined yet. In fact, they're meeting later this month. That would have been part of my HPC report. So I love the idea if they can do it consistently, but we don't have a name yet to put on it.
I mean, that's a very relevant question.
Can I add also
Jimmy?
that when we created the dog park, we had discussed a possible contest to name the dog park as well for the residents. That was sort of thrown around.
What was that?
And remind everyone that we suggested that to the public.
To rename the dog park?
So
To name a dog park.
The dog park doesn't have a name now.
I thought
So
we gave it to,
does
didn't
have
we
a
vote
name.
it on the mayor, former mayor?
On the first meeting of
No,
2020.
Adam, we never voted it.
There was
Yes,
never a
we did.
decision
On the first meeting of 2020, we all agreed to dedicate it to Peter J. Rustin.
Was there a vote on it?
You're
Yes, please go to the minutes.
voting on
I
it?
thought as well.
You're back. I'm sorry.
So just take that, Jimmy, take that detail offline and find out what the status of that is, and that's the way we go.
Okay.
And okay. All right. Okay, so Jimmy, that's in your hands to organize with the dog park committee, the park naming, and with the Boy Scouts.
No problem. We'll do.
All right. Thank you, Scouts, for being here, and thank you for the members of the dog park committee.
Can I ask one more question and then I'll be done?
Sure.
Sound good? All right. So, back and forth in the emails, I just would like one concrete answer from the borough. And in the most recent email that was sent, it basically discussed what you guys believe that would be good suggestions for the dog park committee, and in it, it discusses funding. I know, but in it, it suggests that the dog park committee does not advise the borough and or to kind of allow us to receive funding from you guys. And I was just kind of curious if what your guys' opinions are on that. I guess in the email you suggest doing a fundraiser sitting outside alongside at the actual dog park, but I'm a little bit curious to see I guess what you guys are on, what your guys' opinions are on funding.
Can I just clarify? The dog park committee is making suggestions, but the council and the dog park committee have not actually discussed those suggestions. So just to be very clear, so I'm sorry, can you break down what kind of funding you're looking for and what you're asking us to decide here? Because I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I know that was a little bit of a butchered. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. But
Not on you. Not
Oh, okay. Well, before I remember. Oh, sorry. Is someone else going? Go ahead.
No, I may be able to assist if you'd like. It's not a problem if you'd like me to assist in answering
No,
this
go ahead.
question.
Please.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead with your question. Yep.
Yeah. So to Council President Dayton's question, and to the point that was just brought and asked, I believe the Boy Scouts had some mechanisms of getting some items donated, but the ultimate recommendation from the Dog Park Committee was the borough not commit funds to the project and to have the Scouts fundraise 100% for this project.
Can somebody give me some numbers here, some totals? What are we looking at? What is the ask? And again, I understand the dog park committee discussed it, but there's been no communication between us and them. And so can you break it down for us here? That's for Jimmy.
Yeah, I mean, we could break it down because we have to go back now from the original proposal and just to see what is going to be, what was going to be considered now that we narrowed down to a pretty fine idea to what the council is accepting to be done at the park by the Scouts. So that's going to have to be something we're going to look at.
So
are we not voting on each and every aspect here? Because I would vote yes to the agility equipment, even though the dog park said no committee. So how does this work?
So we're not voting on each and every aspect of this at all. This is, the Scouts have made a proposal. I'm looking at the numbers in the proposal from their original, and they've winnowed it down from here. It looks like this whole thing is going to cost them about $6,700 or $7,700. That was their original number. And they were going to, it's my understanding they're going to do, fundraising on this. But these are the suggestions. The dog park committee looked at it. And so it's basically, they're going to move forward with it. We're not voting on the individual thing.
Do the Eagle Scouts have to abide by what the dog park committee has decided, or does this council get to decide? Is my point here.
Well, ultimately, the council decides everything that goes on. But basically, I'm kind of, the council's made their suggestions, and I'm kind of hearing it sounds like everyone's okay with them getting guidance from the dog park committee, right? That's the point of the committee. Am I mistaken?
And my point is, I would disagree. Having had a small dog who needs to get energy out, I would have said yes to the agility and found, a way to make it work. But again, that's where I think there's a little discrepancy here. We need to be clear.
Right. So I guess, that's why Jimmy's got to take this offline. That's why I said, we talked about this a few seconds ago, right? Asked him to take this offline to combine the opinions of the council, the opinions of the dog park committee, and what the Scouts can actually do and what they can fundraise for, and put together a final plan to make this all work. And if we want, we can have Jimmy come back to the council. We can have Jimmy come back to the council meeting October 5th, just to run it by everyone again.
Okay, thank you.
Will do.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone, on that one. Okay. Jimmy, next. Oh, I have one thing to be considered I'd like to add. It's a quick one. About a year ago, because of COVID, we suspended the overnight parking rules in Tenafly because so many students were home from school, people weren't going to work, and it was a parking issue for a lot of the members of the community. And now that college kids are back in school and we've got some sort of normalcy going on and people are commuting, the police chief and I talked about this. I don't believe he's on the line, but we're suggesting to the council that we return to the normal overnight parking schedule, with a caveat for people who are having struggles over, the recent storm damage and can't go in their driveways because they're doing construction work. But so that's an aside, and that we go back to the normal schedule October 1st. I want to know if anyone on the council has any opinions or concerns about that.
The chief is on the
The
line.
chief is here. Yeah, I was going to say that.
Chief, you're here. Thank you for being here.
I've been here the entire time.
Go ahead, jump in on the overnight parking, October 1.
Well, regarding the overnight parking, I mean, we had, when COVID hit, obviously there was a hardship on a lot of different people. A lot more cars were home. People weren't going anywhere. We, in our COVID meetings, that was one of the considerations we made. And we decided to, I made a recommendation. You folks approved it to suspend overnight parking. The mayor advertised that in one of his Friday Code Red messages a couple of different times, so the town was aware of it. A lot of people in town still don't know, they still call. And we have had some inquiries. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of people that enjoy the fact that we haven't been enforcing it. We are getting some inquiries from people that want it enforced because they just, don't want to look cars on the street. And you have, obviously opposing views on this. Mayor and I spoke about today with respect to overnight parking. A lot of towns around us, I live in Cresskill, I think Bergenfield, a lot of towns, what they do is they restrict overnight parking from October to March, I think it is. And it's more of it's for inclement weather, for snow removal, salting, icy conditions and things of such. And that's the reasoning. They let people park overnight in the other months, but they keep them off then. I think this ordinance goes back long before I came on. I've been on for 28 years. It was more of an accountability ordinance that it's basically, who belongs in town, who doesn't belong in town, I guess residents would park in their driveways, and people that were parked in the street weren't residents. But times have changed. I mean, the average number of cars per house has increased. There's a lot more cars on the road now. So, but regardless, there is a push to reinstate it. We haven't been enforcing it, and we are approaching the winter months. I did one last thing about also too. I did speak to the mayor about it today also too. Is that I don't believe Mike Cassidy from the health department is on, but there is street sweeping that takes place. So they do clean the streets early in the morning. So I don't have him to weigh in, but again, we haven't enforced it. But yes, things have lightened up. Things have returned a little bit back to normal, and we can reinstate it if you wish to do that.
Yeah, I'm supportive. I know that some of the other towns who had suspended it have, a few months back already, reinstated their no overnight parking rules. But also, just so I can clarify with the public, people can, of course, call the police station, right, from here on in if they do have guests that need to park overnight, right?
Yes, if they have a special consideration and they car's disabled, they have too many guests, whatever, people, visiting from out of town, they can call and ask permission, and we grant that on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you.
Other comments from council members?
Yep.
Everyone, if there's hearing no opposition, we'll go ahead and restart this October 1st, and then we'll get messages out to the community and go from there.
Just one last thing. What we'll probably do is that the mayor will include it in his messages. We'll probably put it in the newsletter, and then also just to be fair, the first 2 weeks we'll issue warnings. We won't summons anyone just to get the word out.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to, if the council's agreeable to it, I'm going to switch the administrator's report with the public comment to do the public comment first. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. So audience members wishing to speak will have a 3-minute time limit to address the governing body. Items on the committee of the whole agenda. Large groups are requested to have a spokesperson represent them. Please, if you're going to speak, please just state your name and your address for the record, please. And Omar, obviously I don't have any eyes here, so you're going to have to see and ask people to speak, please.
Absolutely. Okay, Mayor, I have Avia who would like to speak. She has her hand raised.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, this is Aviva. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. First, I just want to say thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. My name is actually Arlene Yaskowitz, and I live at 35 Newcomb Road. But I go by Aviva. And I've been listening to this meeting, and I want to say, thank you for everyone. And I know that you are all doing a lot of work for our town, and I only have 3 minutes, but I very much appreciate it. I'm speaking about the merger between the youth center and the recreation center. All I really have, my feelings are that I believe I understand a little bit of what you're trying to achieve from a board's point of view. And of course, I don't have access to any of the research or the work that has been put into this idea of a merger. But I do have 3 young children. We've lived in Tenafly for about 10 years. They're now 12, 14, and 16. They're not so young, but I've experienced, and the recreation department as well as the youth department have really played a fundamental role in my child's, growth, all 3 of them. And the truth is, I actually wouldn't change a thing of my experience or theirs. We've been extremely happy and indebted and appreciative over the years. I worry that a merger would take away from the unique role that each of these, the recreation center and the youth center, play in our children's lives. Specifically now, my children are 12, 14, and 16. So the youth center, the role it plays is quite unique, I believe, to that of the recreation center. And that's part of the allure or the pull that these kids, they want to have a different director. They want to have someone who doesn't see them as a child, so that they want to involve themselves and join these activities. They love Mark and they've loved Jamie, and they love the idea that as they get older, they go to this slightly new, more grown up sort of organization. And I'm actually a little bit concerned from a parent's point of view that you might lose families by this merger in some sense, parents of teenagers or preteens. You can ask the kids to join activities, but if the kids potentially are against it, it's possible that the kids might want to do activities that are separate for teens, that is not in the same organization that they grew up in, and therefore might want to do the activities outside of Tenafly. So that's my concern. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Aviva. Omar?
Okay, Mayor, I have Belinda with her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Hello, my name's Linda Steffi, and I live on 170 Westervelt Avenue. And thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I want to echo some of the sentiments from the previous speaker. I have 2 boys, ages 13 and 15, and we appreciate both the recreation facility and the teen center, but they do function, and we see them as 2 separate entities. Both boys feel safe and supervised in the teen center. And I think part of the appeal is that it's somewhat unstructured with supervision and opportunity for conflict resolution if that happens. And I think also during COVID, the teen center really took the lead to implement a summer camp and explore how that can be addressed during a pandemic. And I think that was really helpful for the children. They had a great summer during a really difficult time. And, I think they respect Mark, and we all interact well as parents. I know for myself, with Mark, he's been very responsive. I think although recreation has its role, it's not really a one-stop shop for the kids. Some kids don't fit into that model. And I think for the teens, it mirrors the developmental process of looking for that autonomy. And as a parent, I feel good about having them in a space where they can be autonomous but still have the supervision. And I think it's been successful for our family, and I appreciate that we have both options available. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Omar?
I have Christine Evron with her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Hi, it's Christine Evron, 39 Leroy Street. I wanted to speak on the Clinton Inn proposal. The historic train station is the center of our town, and I think the council should give an overarching view to framing the train station. And I spent a lot of time running around Europe that had buildings about the same, built the same time as the train station. There seemed to be a lot of 5- and 6-story buildings in a square around centerpieces of the town. Quite often they were churches or forts, but we have the train station. Making the Clinton Inn higher towards the town, but giving a very historic facade, I think would be more useful to the town. There are fewer homes in that center where the hotel is now. Also, I was concerned about how is it going to look from the Northern Valley Greenway. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Omar?
So Michelle Merchant wants to speak, Omar. I got a message, but she says her raise hand function isn't working.
Okay, let's call on Michelle.
She's asking, does she need to enter a code or anything to speak? Or she could just speak, right?
*6. If she's calling in, she'll have to hit *6 to be able to unmute herself.
*6 to unmute yourself, Michelle.
Okay, this is Michelle. May I go ahead now?
Yep,
Go
we
ahead,
hear you.
Michelle. How you doing tonight?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm doing well, thank you. Michelle Merchant, 130 Columbus Drive. Thanks for the opportunity to speak and share with this body. I'm here as a longtime member of the Tenafly Recreation Board, a role I thoroughly enjoy. First, like most of you, I'm a proponent of efficiency. However, I am concerned that in the name of efficiency and in moving to combine the rec department and the teen center, that staffing is not to be the only consideration or focus. No one on this body would likely ever admit that this is the motivation, and in fact, instead would assert the opposite, that staff elimination is not a motivation. I sincerely ask that this body not seek to eliminate any high-earning, long-term, effective, dedicated personnel in the disguise or name of efficiency. Any such staff removal is an outcome that cannot be taken lightly and should not be tolerated. Based on hours of operation and the services offered, both the recreation and the teen center require staffing, and that staffing has not been wasteful and has served our residents and town very well. I know personally, having had 2 children who have participated in rec offerings from toddler through teenage years, they have benefited from programs offered by both the recreation department and the teen center. And I just urge this body in all their considerations to really consider the value that both entities have offered the residents and continue to offer the residents. And please do not be motivated by saving dollars for personnel costs. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments, Michelle. Omar?
Okay, I have former Mayor Rustin who would like to speak.
Yes, good evening.
Go ahead, Mayor Rustin. How are you?
I'm doing well. As a soon-to-be exponent of the dog park, an exponent is somebody who has something named after them. If you need help taking down the sign, I'd be more than happy to volunteer. A couple of comments. First of all, on the potential merger with the teen center and the recreation department. Talk about that started taking place while I was still around. And be honest with you, I think the true motivation of the start of that discussion was based on staffing. Okay, I think anybody that is intimately aware of what goes on at the teen center can have no problem differentiating between that and what goes on at the rec department. That's not to say that both departments aren't doing a good job. The elementary schools have after-school programs where our kids, latchkey kids, stay after school and are looked after and get their homework done. When they get to middle school, there's no such program, and those kids end up at the teen center. The teen center is a very unique place. I know from speaking to former other mayors, very few towns have something of that nature, and the track record of our teen center is impeccable. Impeccable. We've never had any issues there, despite the fact that you have to admit, teenage kids in Tenafly, along with their parents, are a very tough constituency. So, and then if you look at the camps, I know you talked a little bit about the summer camps. The difference between a camp for elementary school kids and a camp for teenagers is day and night. And the staffing is also different. We have kids volunteering in the Reckies camp. We have teachers acting as counselors in the teen camp. So I think, as all parts of government should do, be careful of unintended consequences. You've got something that works extremely well now. The old adage, if it's not broke, don't fix it. One other thing I wanted to mention, we're blessed in downtown Tenafly. We have a new restaurant, the Mills Butcher Block. It's great, but you know what that's done? It's made parking a little bit more difficult. And I don't know about the legality of this, but I'd like to suggest that since the theater looks like it's permanently closed, we have at least 2 spaces there that are blocked off in front of the theater. Those spaces I believe, could be reclaimed and give us 2 additional parking spaces on West Railroad Avenue. So like I said, I'm not sure about the legality of it, but I think there was probably an ordinance passed because there's a theater there. The theater is no longer there. Please consider opening up those 2 spaces. Thanks for your ear.
Peter, you're talking about the 2 spaces that have the crosses in them.
That's correct. In between them is a crosswalk, which could still remain there.
Okay, good question. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, Omar, next person.
Yes. Okay, Anton Swermer, he would like to speak. He has his hand raised.
Okay, of course. Anton, go ahead.
Hi, Mayor. How are you? Hello, everyone.
Good.
Thank you for your volunteerism and participation in the board. I just wanted to chime in with Aviva and Sharon and Mayor Rustin in favor of keeping the rec center separate. I reside at 55 Ennis Road. I'm a volunteer coach with the rec department's girls lacrosse program and a past varsity lacrosse coach, assistant varsity lacrosse coach. So I have some experience participating in the community, but I know at least one young person who I coached who benefited greatly from the teen center. And I'm concerned the rec department may have a bias towards sports, and the needs of kids not playing sports may not be met. So if the net effect is fewer staff focused on the needs of kids, I would be opposed to that. So thank you for your time, and I'll yield back.
Thank you for your comments. I appreciate it. Omar?
Okay, I have an Adam with his hand raised.
Adam, you said?
Yes.
Adam, please go ahead.
Hi, it's actually Edna on Adam's login. My name is Edna Kaminsky. Hi. We live at 118 East Clinton Avenue. And I thank you all for your time and all the work that you do. I know it's not easy being out in the public and serving a community that has varied opinions. I am also weighing in on the merger concept. I have two kids that have also participated in both programs. My oldest child also works at the youth center and has worked also at the day camp. But I do feel that they serve different needs and purposes. I am a fan of efficiency, but I do think that unintended consequences, I'm going to use that quote because I do think that that's where this will lead, are dangerous. And I feel like the focus that each one gives to the children that participate are different. Mark runs a very tight ship. The kids feel comfortable and safe there. And as parents, we feel comfortable leaving our kids there. I always have. And when they get to middle school, they're a little lost. And the fact that they had a place to go, and that was the focus, to give them a safe haven and teach them to be responsible citizens, was a good thing. The rec camp, the rec side of the world, which included camp, and other after-school program and other programs, were definitely geared towards sports, to Anton's point, but also were not focused on the same kind of activity. They were more not post-school activity, but more activities that you did on the weekends or at other times. So I do think that they serve different purposes. I'm all for efficiency, and if that can be proven to be the case without risking what both programs offer, I would support that. But I do worry about how things will play out once we start to merge these two positions. And I guess that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Edna.
Okay,
Omar?
I have a Belkis de Castro with her hand raised.
Belkis? Belkis?
Yes, Belkis de Castro, 85 Norman Place. Thank you for your time and for all you do for the community. I'm speaking on behalf of the, expressing my opinions on the merger. I have a 7th grader, and he has participated in activities both in the recreation center, and then for the first time this summer, he went to the youth center, which I have to say I was a little concerned of whether he would actually enjoy the summer camp, just because he's a teenager, and sometimes it's difficult to please the preteens and the teens, but he absolutely loved it. He loved and bonded really well with Mark and the rest of the children there. I told him that I was listening to, and there was a discussion of the merger and possibly getting rid of that position. And his question was why? All the kids love it. We like him. We can relate to him, relate to having someone that can speak for those that are participate in sports and are very athletic, and also for those who don't have such a strong interest in athletics and sports, but enjoyed other activities. So my son enjoyed it. It seems to be a great, safe place for young children. I do believe these are two separate needs. I haven't been around in prior discussions to hear more of the evidence for supporting a merger, but I frankly, even from the perspective of the various council member, it really does sound more of a staffing endeavor rather than truly a benefit to the children. For myself, it was easy for me to find programs on the website for both entities, so I don't think a merger necessarily makes my search for the youth center any easier or more difficult, and vice versa. So if this is truly about what children need, I think that they serve different needs, and the youth center is a great place for teens, a place that has some structure, but also a lot of flexibility for children to learn independence and and a free space to express themselves. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about the merger and what are the evidence, but so far I feel that both entities are working just fine the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Omar, next.
Okay, I see no other hands, Mayor.
Okay, you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay, don't want to miss anyone. All right. Okay, thank you everyone for your comments. We appreciate it. Obviously, more conversation to come about that in the next council meeting. Administrators report. Jimmy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. First item I'd like to report is at Fister's Pond, the hydro raking project. The contractor TR Weninger had started this previous Friday with the actual hydro raking, and this project is anticipated to last about 4 to 6 weeks. And then immediately following that, on the next item I'm going to report on is the paving in Hudson Avenue. That's an NJDOT 2020 grant. Bids were received on August 27th. Award for the contract to American Asphalt and Trucking will be considered later on tonight at this meeting. The borough received a NJDOT grant in the amount of $225,000 for this project. And again, it's anticipated to take place upon immediately upon completion of the Fister's Pond hydro raking project. The 2021 Riverside Co-op Improvement Program, DNL Paving will begin milling and paving of the additional roads. Probably next week they'll begin mobilizing, if not already. This work is anticipated to last about 2 to 3 weeks, weather dependent.
Jimmy, can you send around a list of the roads again? And I had a question last time on a road that was originally on the additional list, and then I didn't see it, and I didn't get an answer on that, and that was Ravine.
Okay, no problem. And I believe there was a question either at the last meeting or a previous meeting, the last one or two, about any overlap in the roads in terms that we're getting that were going to be worked on. There was no overlap in the roads that they won't be dug up or anything like that. But I will send you the list, no problem. The library roof facade project. This project has been advertised with a bid receipt date of September 30th. We've held meetings with appropriate members on behalf of the library administration and board of trustees. This work is anticipated to take place in October. Suez Howard Park Drive project. Suez has contracted J. Fletcher Kramer to replace a water main pipe on Howard Park Drive between Thatcher Road and Leroy Street. This project will start late September with an approximate completion time of 6 weeks.
Did we let the school board know this? Because again, that's the Smith carpool area.
Yeah, I'll remind the superintendent and the new BA about this again.
Not let them be surprised that morning.
No, absolutely. And then they always try to be mindful when they do this work of school locations and times and so on. But I'll remind them. Health officer retirement, Sam Yanovich, health officer of our health officer, and he's also the health officer of Mid-Bergen Regional Health, will be retiring on September 30th. Jim Fedorko will replace Sam as the health officer. For 8 years, Jim Fedorko has served as the health officer and director at the Inglewood Department of Health Services. Storm Ida borough response. As a supplement to Andy Hippolyte, the borough engineer's memo, the borough has sustained damages in excess of $2.5 million as a result of Storm Ida. And as of right now, some of these items may have been updated from last week. We've been fortunate enough to have the emergency work take place almost pretty much immediately. We had crews come in within less than 2 days of the completion of the storm to begin some of the emergency work, to repair some of the emergency work. Bliss Ave culvert, that's going to be the largest one. It's been stabilized. The culvert has been stabilized. It's still a hard closure. That full project will not be complete for probably 6 to 8 months or so. York Place and Woodland Street sewer collapses. They've been repaired and stabilized. What's left is milling and paving of both those streets. That is to be done this week. If not, it's been done already. Victoria Lane has also been stabilized. Guide rails, curbing has also been done, and then milling and paving will also take place this week. So all those 3 streets should be fully, completely repaired pretty much by the end of this week. And yeah.
Is Brook on one of them? I mean, I know Brook lost all its road and curbing.
I'd have to get. I know there was a lot more that came up in between, so I have to get I'll ask Andy for an updated list. Leroy Street sinkhole has been fully repaired. In addition to all these damages, the inspection of all the bridges and culverts will have to be done because most, if not all, were topped with water. So inspections will be done in the next couple weeks, and then based on the reports of that inspection of the bridges and culverts, it will be determined whether any additional repairs or replacements would be necessary, or if they're safe. So I'll update everyone on the progress of all these projects. And some of the immediate steps that the borough has taken to assist in the recovery of the storm. The recycling center had extended its hours. Also at the recycling center, ease of restrictions for residents to drop off bulk waste. Additional hours of operation by the Department of Public Works. We've also asked the borough trash hauler to conduct additional bulk waste collections. And also tonight, there's consideration of waiving building permit fees and also prioritization of the building permit fees as it relates only to storm-related damage and their repair and fixing of storm-related damage. We've also communicated on the website resources for assistance for individuals and businesses. The county, we posted today, we just were made aware of information from the county. One of times and dates and locations of assistance to individuals and businesses to assist them with submitting applications and just general questions and answers. Additionally, the borough will be hosting FEMA disaster recovery, survivor recovery teams this Friday from 9 to 6 in the McCandless room. Those FEMA representatives will be able to assist individuals, not for the one that the borough is hosting, it's just individuals, not businesses. They'll be assisting them with filling applications and just general questions and answers. So they'll be there on site 9 to 6 in the McCandless room to assist individuals with that process and information. The borough is tracking all costs associated with the storm, as it will be seeking reimbursement from FEMA. This has been declared a major storm and with federal reimbursement, so we'll be keeping track. That process alone takes a couple of years, but between administration and finance and all the various departments, we've taken all the necessary immediate steps to ensure proper tracking of the costs. And when times comes for submission for reimbursement, it would be seamless for us to hand over the documents to FEMA for them to review and reimburse the borough. There's a couple items on the agenda tonight in terms of the financial mechanisms for the borough to respond to the damage, and especially with the amount of damage, the dollar-wise amount of damage that the borough sustained. So we have that on later at the meeting for consideration. This was Susan will be able to assist and speak to that a little bit more as Susan and the auditors have worked closely on any updated guidance from the state and their local finance notice that they released, and she could speak to that later on. Just a couple additional items. Or one additional item, as the mayor alluded to later, the hybrid meeting solution in the council chambers. I know we had expected it to be ready for a September. I am happy to report that although it's extended a little bit longer than we wanted, but we have tested it and it is up and running. Just this week we tested it. So the next meeting should be in-person hybrid. So it gives the ability to people to tune in just as they are now or come in person. So we still have to do some testing as we are waiting on one piece of equipment. We borrowed the one piece of equipment from the school and everything was working fine. We ordered it for ourselves. So we're waiting for that to come in, for it to be installed and tested. So that is what I have. Alicia also has something on it for as it relates to human resources, but I would answer any questions anyone may have before I pass along to Alicia.
Who has questions for Jimmy?
Jeff does.
No questions? Okay, Alicia.
Jeff has a question, and then I have a.
Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Just a couple of questions and a couple of comments. First of all, Jimmy, I want to thank you, the staff, all our emergency responders, Mike and the crew at DPW, our borough engineer, Andy, the police department, fire department, phenomenal response. And everybody should be proud of themselves. Couple of things, since I think the chief may still be on the line. I mentioned this at the last meeting, and I do want to keep mentioning this, that with Hudson Avenue and Englewood being closed and with Bliss being closed, I know Elm is getting much higher traffic. I've been on it. People are starting to use it as a faster and faster, higher traffic roadway. So I would appreciate some periodic monitoring. Maybe that's a good place for one of those speed signs. Just considerations. That's one. Two.
Could I just comment on that for a second, Jeff? Timely. I know that Jimmy and I and the police chief, we communicated today, and the chief it looks like, and Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong or quoting it wrong, the chief is going to put a sign control signals up there on that street to help slow down the traffic.
Okay, that would be awesome. I know I mentioned that previously, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ongoing concern. I think it might behoove us to talk, I don't use that word often, but anyway, it might behoove us to talk to the state and or really the federal government to, as a lot of these streams have changed course, we may need to look at where flood zones are now. They're changed and it could impact people getting flood insurance. I know when people hear that they have to get a flood insurance, they're not happy about it, but then when storms like this hit, they're very happy that they ended up getting it. So just something to think about. On the Fister's Pond hydro raking, I did hear, I was actually met with Andy today at my property, and we know of at least two landscape contractors who are interested in removing some of the debris from the DPW site. Since we only have a year that it can stay there, that could be a win-win situation that people want that because they use it ultimately as soil in their project. So we looks like we may have ways of getting rid of that. I think I mentioned flood zones. I think I would ask that we contact the state representatives to extend the 30-day emergency period, because right now the emergency period ends October 5th. And the way it works is if somebody is doing work on their home, since a lot of the homes are along brooks, if they're doing work on the home during the state of emergency and complete it before October 5th, then the DEP doesn't really get involved. They can restore things. Once we're past October 5th, all bets are off. And that's not a good benefit for homeowners, especially since people are having a hard time getting contractors, getting the work done. I will say not getting permits is a problem. I should also thank the building department. They're doing a phenomenal job. Before one more comment, but before that, I do want to also say to any residents still on, my heart's with all who sustained damage. I can certainly relate, and I consider myself lucky compared to many and that we didn't lose electricity is incredible. Otherwise, this would have been 100 times worse. The last thing, just as a question, Jimmy, so I do have a question there. Do we have any progress on the lighting issue for Roosevelt Monument? Since I know we had 2 solicitations that went nowhere, and we're allowed to now try and find somebody. Just want to know what progress we have on that, and that will be it for me.
Yeah, there's been some communication. We had a meeting, an internal meeting with Karen and Andy and Wendy and Susan to kind of create a path forward. And we were there were suggestions on potential vendors that are known vendors who would potentially do this work, and considering maybe adjusting or relaxing some of the requirements that were initially put forward in the bid specs. So there's been communications with vendors, and they've been looking at the original bid specs. So there are 1 or 2 vendors that have expressed interest, and we're looking into it. And that's kind of where we left off. We haven't heard anything yet, but I will follow up. Karen has been doing a great job of following up with those vendors and chasing vendors to complete this work.
All right.
A sense of what the constraints are? I'm sorry. Like
No,
what are
ahead.
holding it? What's holding it back? It's surprising. People don't want to, do paying work unless. Is there a technology issue and there are chips that are needed that they don't have, or do they not have the staff? What could be holding back someone that wants
It's just
good work?
It's specialized in a historic monument. There's and just people are busy. The hesitation working on a historic monument is one, and then also they're just too busy. They're doing other jobs. There's not much interest in this right now, unfortunately.
Councilman Michaels, to answer that in another way, is we waited so long on this that all those contractors filled up over the summers, and they don't do as much work in cold weather, and we waited too long. Back to just one thing, just following up. Is there consent? Would we be able to at least ask our state representatives to extend the state of emergency for 30 days? Nothing hurts to ask, and I said it, but
we can absolutely ask.
Okay, I would appreciate it if we asked for a 30-day extension on that.
Okay.
I have something. Jimmy,
Go ahead, Brian.
one of the main things that we needed presented to us tonight as part of your admin report was the option to expand our hydro raking in Fisters. What we needed was the finances and the details for the council. We are running out of time.
Yeah, I mean, it will be on at the next meeting. That was always,
Is that enough time before they leave here?
Yes.
Is that enough time to pass a resolution? Because won't we need two readings? Excuse me.
No, I don't know. I don't believe you need 2 readings.
If it's a resolution to expand that project?
If it's just a change order, that I don't believe so.
As soon as you can get that to us to consider, I would very much appreciate it. Wendy, I see you're trying to say something.
No, I was going to say for a resolution, it's 1 meeting.
I just don't want to lose the opportunity here to even consider it.
So.
No.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, just to add one last piece to that. Yeah, no, Andy, Andrew, and I have been on top of this, and it was been the plan all along with the first meeting in October to have that on for consideration.
Okay, as long as we have it done and everyone knows on your end.
Yep.
Just please bring it before us, because I don't think it'll be a cut and dry, rubber stamping kind of discussion.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions of Jimmy? All right, so questions about the resolutions.
Mayor, I apologize. Just as a part of extension of my my report, Alicia had some items to report on personnel.
Oh, right. Go ahead, Alicia.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say I'm happy to report that I have been able to fill some key positions for the borough, one being the payroll position and one being the technical assistant position. I'm hosting my first new hire orientation September the 27th. So I'm really looking forward to that. Special thank you to Omar for working with me to get all these advertising out really quickly. So I'm excited about that. We're bringing in some new talent and being able to fill a lot of our key positions. It would be great if some of the council team could come to new hire orientation to give an overview, introduce themselves. That would be much appreciated.
So keep us posted on when those dates are.
Thank you.
And time.
Yeah.
And can we just wish Alicia a very happy birthday for tonight, please?
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you.
Your birthday? I pray to God it's tomorrow.
No,
Can't
it's
be today.
today. It's
Happy,
tonight.
happy birthday, Alicia. If you
That's not cool.
if you want, you can. It's a council meeting. It's 10:39. If you want, you can leave early and go home now and celebrate. It's up to you.
Thank you so
Meeting-
3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you.
All right. In the interest of time, what else, Alicia, do you have for us?
That's all I have for personnel.
Okay. All right. Thank you, and happy birthday.
Thank
Okay.
you, everyone.
Who has questions about resolutions?
Mayor, there is,
It's
Wendy. I'm sorry, Vanu, you go first.
Well, the only one, I don't want to pull the resolution, but R 21-359, I think that's letter E, where we are talking about rescinding R 2173, which is the filling of vacant positions, the one that we passed last year. What I want to keep that as a resolution to be passed tonight, but I'd like a further resolution to state that any new positions being opened up, if it's somebody who has, left the borough for whatever reason, and we need to replace that position, I don't have an objection to that being replaced. But even if it was a new position that was budgeted, I would like to have a resolution that where the department will have to come, well, we would have to go through that same approval process until the end of the year.
No, I disagree with that.
I-
It's a budgeted position.
Can I just respond to that, Councilman?
Sure.
Please go ahead, Alicia.
I truly feel that would delay and hinder the hiring process in fulfilling positions for the borough. If the position is already budgeted for, I should be able to move forward with filling that position the same. Having to come back to 2 council meetings, which takes about a month, delays efficiencies and processes.
Normally 2 weeks. It's not, meetings are not every month, they're every 2 weeks. So, but the reason
Twice a month.
right.
Right. So that's twice a month, which to post for the position, that takes time. The recruiting of the position takes time to get candidates. So we're talking about delaying the process for a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. And not to say that the candidates that you bring in are going to make the cut.
Alicia, we're not talking about delaying anything for 4 to 6 weeks. We're talking about delaying it for until the next council meeting, where a request can be made for filling. We're not talking about a position that was vacated. I'm talking purely about a new position that that was left empty, and we're evaluating whether to fill that position. If it's somebody that left a week ago, and you need to fill that position because it's an ongoing position. That should be you should have that. But under the current circumstances with the budget and everything like that, I think any positions, any new positions, you're talking only about 1 to 2 weeks. You're not talking about 4 to 6 weeks of a delay.
So my only comment, go ahead, Dan.
In complete disagreement. I believe it is inefficient, and that's what the budget process is for. We budget for an X amount of FTEs. It's an admin's job to fill them. Why would we get in that way and create a week or 2 week delay in that? It's inefficient.
Because conditions change even within a year. You're budgeting, 8 months ago, 10 months ago, a lot of things change even within the year. And we should always be evaluating.
Correct. But administration should have the wiggle room to operate administration.
Yeah, so,
Can I
the
agree with
condition.
Dan for a second? Because
Go
within
ahead,
this
Lauren.
past year and a half that, we were looking at freezing our hires. Again, we've established this director of human resources. We've hired someone at a very high level who interviews, screens candidates, looks at resumes for a living. I mean, this is a person who can find red flags and backgrounds and has the expertise, and that's why we've created that position and given her that autonomy so that the 6 of us at this meeting, don't have to go through that process every time to hire, like a driver laborer. At the same time, I hear you that you want to ensure that we have a good quality set of employees. Well, I think Alicia is going to set it up that if someone's not working, she's also going to know someone's not working with performance reviews and feedback and all the other protections that we have in HR as well. So, the 6 of us, we hire at the highest level of director, but for the rest of employees, I'm comfortable giving it to the HR director's office.
So I agree with you that we hired an HR director to handle the conditions of hiring and how to manage that process. The thing is, at the moment, as a new hire, the HR director may or may not know the dynamics of the departments in the town and what is a request or not. I mean that the point is it's not this is only till the end of this year, which is another 3 or 4 months. New budget process comes.
Vinu,
I'm gonna.
can I just speak? Can I just
Sure.
comment on that? Because you're absolutely
Hold
right.
on a second. Alicia, I want to interject for a second. On this particular resolution E, we'll just vote on it. We'll take a separate vote on it separately than all the other resolutions, and council can make a decision.
Can I hear what Alicia was going to
like
say,
to
though?
hear-
Sorry. I'd like to hear her finish.
Yeah,
Would you like to hear from Labor Council on this issue?
Sure.
Absolutely.
And
Well, I just
Labor
need
Council.
to say that, Vanu, you're right. Coming into a situation new, you don't know all the dynamics. But what I will say on my behalf, I personally met with each department head to understand what the department needs, what are the current open positions, and what are the job descriptions tied to those positions to ensure that we're not hiring for positions that have not been budgeted. And I also, as a backup to that, meet with Susan to make sure I'm hiring for the positions that are in the current budget and not just relying on information that I'm being fed. But I have done the research and the legwork to know what positions are currently open. And I think meeting with the department heads and understanding that has gave me great understanding of what's needed for the borough. This is why I have been able to move forward to fill the payroll position, which was open for a little bit over 8 months. and to fill the the taco position that was open for roughly about 4 to 6 weeks. So I do have an understanding of what's needed from that perspective, but I do hear what you're saying. But staying in the budget, I believe that I have the tools and the resources to make sure that we don't deviate from that. But I hear you.
So, Labor Council?
Good evening.
Here for Ruby.
Good
Go
evening.
ahead, Ruby.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you.
I just want to remind everybody, I'm listening to this, but I want to remind everybody you're a borough form of government. There's administration, and the head of administration is the mayor and the borough administrator. Council has the authority to get involved in hiring decisions of department heads. Subordinate employees, by virtue of your ordinance, is specifically and exclusively within the borough administrators and his delegates' authority to hire with consultation with the mayor. So to say that subordinate employees have to come before the council at this point, I think would contravene the borough form of government that has been established in Tenafly and the role of the council when it comes to subordinate employees. So legally speaking, you may be asking for something that you don't have the authority to interfere with.
Thank you.
Ruby, can I say something to that?
Sure.
One of the things that we were, sorry, my dog's barking at a grasshopper that's in the house. Ignore her. One of the things that we needed to take a look at, maybe now that we have you as our labor council, is we had never really amended through the ordinances between the BA and the HR director. And so I just want to maybe double check and make sure Jimmy and Alicia are part of that conversation. And so I'll just sort of throw that back out there, but thank you for your explanation.
You're welcome.
Ruby, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So last year we had taken the step of doing this because of COVID. We're still not out of the COVID situation. How does that change that equation of form of government?
So Ruby, let's back up for a second, just so everyone's on the same page. We did this strictly because we were concerned about tax collections. That's why we did. That was the only reason we did this. And once it was determined that the tax collections were at or near the historical percentages that were paid to us, this particular policy, fortunately, wasn't. We never ran into problems with cash flow because people paid their tax bills at the traditional levels. And that's why this happened. Because we didn't know if we'd have enough cash to get by from quarter to quarter.
Right. So to answer your question, Venu, it's the council gets involved in hiring decisions very limited fashion, and that is with the salary ordinance and the budget. So once the budget has passed and you've created those positions for the year and money exists for the year, the borough administrator, along with the mayor, in consultation with the HR director, are technically permitted to or lawfully permitted to fill those positions so long as they can rely upon those funds. And so your role in enacting the hiring freeze was directly related to the budget, is what I'm hearing.
And that's kind of what I'm saying for the rest of the year.
Well, if I could jump in too. So once it's a budgeted amount, that's when you already approved the hiring.
Right.
So certainly, Councilman Menon, that you could stop any new positions that perhaps weren't provided an amount in the budget, even if they were in the salary ordinance but weren't budgeted. That's one thing. But Ruby's absolutely correct that once the role of the council is to approve the budget and those positions are in the budget, they can be filled.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I may, with a point of order, we are really up against the curfew right now.
It's 11 o'clock. It's 8 minutes to 11. We're running out of time rapidly. So any other questions about resolutions?
There is actually one resolution that Susan would like to clarify. There's some amendments to what was provided in the packet. I believe Susan's on the line.
Go ahead, Susan.
And Mark, I have something after that.
No problem.
Can I ask about the curfew while Susan's getting ready? Is it possible to have like, can you put out a poll for us to see if there's another day that we can meet, like to do closed or something? Because we can't really do everything tonight, right?
Yeah, there is no possible way for us to get through our agenda tonight. So we're going to wind up pushing. We'll have that conversation in a minute. We'll probably push our public hearings, if it's legal, to the next meeting.
Thanks. Thank you.
So we'll talk about that. Go ahead. Who had the Susan?
Okay, I'm not hearing her, so let me just jump in with it. So it's the resolution C, authorizing the purchase of an aerial fire truck. There was some typographical errors in that resolution. And from what Susan had advised, it's actually for a purchase from a national cooperative, and that the resolution will be contingent upon the economic savings analysis when compared to any New Jersey state or cooperative price. So that would be an additional whereas clause that was inadvertently left out.
Well, while you're on that subject, the council is probably going to want to pull that for a separate vote. But maybe I'm not using the right term, having a separate vote on that fire truck.
Yep, that was
Maybe
my
what
thing
I
I was going to ask.
I'm sorry.
Can I table it?
Yeah, okay, so,
We're
okay.
bumping into the deadline. We can't keep tabling this. We have to get this
Okay,
purchase
so-
in September
right.
to lose our
So-
pricing. So can we vote on it tonight?
So what I would
There's no
suggest-
other option on the table right now to purchase this fire truck. We've
Everything's
budgeted
still-
for it.
Yes,
Town
is-
needs this purchase.
What I would
Okay, so
suggest-
hold on a second, guys. Everyone's speaking and nothing's getting done. So Wendy, you still have the floor, so you can please finish.
Yes, what I was going to say, thank you, Mayor, is that when it's pulled for a separate vote, I can just read it into the record as it should be read, or as it should have been written, and this way the council knows exactly what they're voting on.
Okay, fine. All right, so Dan, you had a question next, and then Lauren, please.
Yes, so I would like to pull the fire truck reso. 10 days wasn't enough to get any leeway or headway with Dumont, but there is interest because they are in desperate need of equipment as well. So I'm requesting that we pull this and table it for when we both Dumont, then we are in budget season next March.
You also have the fire chief here. If you have any questions, I'm able to maybe answer some.
I would love to hear from
Hey,
Chief
Chief.
Philpott if the council will allow.
Okay, first, Lauren, you had a question next.
I would like to encourage my council to fulfill our budgeting promise of 2021. Remember, it takes over 2 years for this purchase to arrive in our town. We currently just had to fix our existing ladder. I cannot stress enough, the fire chief is here to stress, this purchase is needed for our fire department. It is long overdue. We are kicking the can. If Dumont wants to share the costs, great, we could split it later on, but get the purchase done and we could figure out the financing, sharing it if possible later, or using FEMA funds, or using, federal funds that are coming in from the American Rescue Plan. But if we don't purchase this, we lose our purchase price in September. We will have to figure out the pricing. It's going to be done according to New Jersey state law. So maybe it'll even lower after this storm, but I cannot stress enough that pulling this ordinance after we've budgeted for it is a mistake. The fire department needs this, and I'm going to let Chief Philpott tell you why.
Okay, first we've got to finish council members' comments. Council members, anyone have comments on the resolutions or?
I don't know how it's working, Mr. Mayor, again.
No other
We have less for the night, the last 3 minutes. What are we doing?
We can't hear you, Adam.
I'm just unclear on what we're doing. There's 3 minutes left in the meeting. What are we doing?
So we're trying to get through the resolutions, and I'm asking for comments on the resolutions from anyone. It could
Can
be
we
that
hear
the
from the
resolution.
chief, please?
First, we're going to hear from the council members. That's what we're going to do first.
If there were any other we were just shaking our heads, basically. that we
Oh,
don't
I
have
can't see that, guys. So
Yeah.
well, give me a break. I can't see it. All right, Chief Bill Pott, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yes, I'll try to make this quick. The fire department's been researching this ladder truck for over 2 or 3 years. I know shared services is a big thing, and I agree with them. But for an emergency vehicle, it just doesn't make sense to have a ladder truck that may be needed for a rescue or a fireman's rescue or a citizen of Tenafly rescue parked way over on the other side of Dumont. One, they might not be able to get the manpower to get that truck going. And two is, the Tenafly Fire Department responds pretty quickly, and we're able to serve the citizens of Tenafly at a moment notice. So there are other reasons or other ways we can do shared services, but this ladder truck is a very important necessity to the Tenafly Fire Department. I don't know if you noticed that the flag was up the other day at the ceremony. It took us over 5 hours to restart that truck, the ladder truck that was there with the flag, because of the problems we're having with it. So, I mean, there will be other trucks that we will be needing that we can jump on with maybe Dumont or another borough if that might work. I don't even know if that would work. But the ladder truck should be done today, and one, because of the cost is going up, and two, that the citizens of Tenafly actually need it immensely.
Mr.
Okay,
Mayor, can
thank
you
you,
share
Chief.
your feedback? I know you met with a number of federal, state, local folks. What did you learn over the past 10 days?
Are you asking me? Well, you're coming in a little blurry. You asked me, Adam?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go down a list of things, people that I've talked to. First off, Congressman Pascrell's office sent us, and Jimmy has a copy of this. I believe I forwarded it to you, Jimmy. The grant applications, you can't apply until I believe it's January 1 to get federal money for the fire trucks. I spoke to, at length, Assemblyman Johnson. There are grant applications also for fire trucks out of the Division of Community Affairs, the DCA, at the state level. I had a conversation with the mayor of Bergenfield, who is discussing with his council the potential of sharing even this equipment and helping to pay for it through grants with Bergenfield. And he also advised me that Bergenfield has never paid in their recent memory for a fire truck. They always get them through federal or state grants. Englewood, the city council president over there, is interested in sharing equipment with us, although it would be very difficult for them to do it because they feel like I just have to give the good with the bad with the good news. Englewood would be concerned that they would, for lack of a better term, hog the equipment too much. So while we had the conversation, that they're the least likely partner, but they're discussing it. Our friends over in Cresskill would, without putting words in their mouth, they would be willing to discuss very concrete sharing agreements with Tenafly, with equipment, and the chief and I have talked about that. And the chief, that situation has not changed in terms of progression one way or other since last we discussed it. So there's lots of opportunities out there for us to do things, sharing with some of our neighbors.
I need to respond to that, Mayor. I'm sorry. That is very unrealistic and really skeptical. Let me just remind everybody, we went through a full grant process a couple years ago. We lost gloriously. And you know why? Because our town is not Bergenfield's budget. Our town is not Patterson's budget. Our town is Tenafly's budget. And when in comparison to other communities, we do not win that fire truck grant. We have not. We've applied for it. We've shown the need for it. The truck was overdue 3 years ago when we applied. We did not receive that grant. So we can try again for the next 2 years. And again, that's putting off the truck for 4 years, because let's remember,
Sorry,
it takes 2
Lauren,
years to
please,
get here.
please, when you share the information, it's 425 days. That's what it says on the proposal that actually has 3 spelling errors in 7 sentences. So already I'm
It's
concerned.
not gonna
It's
make a difference, Adam.
425 days. So it's 14 months. It's not 2 years. I just want to make sure you have the right information. Maybe you don't have the right information. 14
That's just
months.
to get, no, and I'll
That's
let
to
the chief
deliver.
explain
That's
it.
to deliver the truck. It says delivery in calendar days. I just want to make sure you have the right information.
It's not coming this year, it's not coming next year, and we're lucky if we get it on the 3rd year. So Adam, if you would like to explain to our residents why they don't have a working ladder truck for 3 years, sure, but I don't, because this health and safety is and should be the #1 priority of our taxes. And let me just remind you,
We're not talking about not getting it. We're talking
not
about not.
one of these communities, not one of these communities that the mayor is discussing has had a hard yes, let's share the purchase price of it. And you know why? They're hoping
The mayor
we
had
buy
10
it.
days. Literally
Again,
10 days.
These conversations
We've
have
had
occurred
6 months.
prior to these 10 days. This is not the first time we've reached out to other communities. Okay, we don't have a firm commitment. Decide tonight whether you want to protect the residents of Tenafly and have a working ladder truck. We just discussed 2 proposals here for apartments, 2 tonight. 2. I wanted ladder truck. I'm not willing to look at the Spring Street development, 6, 5, 4 floors, and not have a ladder truck that might need to be used. I'm just not. Then just say no to
How
that
often do we
proposal.
use a ladder truck a year, Lauren?
The chief is on. Let him explain.
Okay. How often do we use the ladder truck a year? How many times is the ladder truck needed a year?
Probably around 500 times a year it goes out.
How many fires do we have a year?
That doesn't matter, because you could have 1 fire, you could have 10 fires that you're going to have to save someone's life, whether it's a citizen or a fireman. Now, if we take a look at Ida, if whoever had that fire truck at the time, the other town would not have got a ladder truck. There's no way they're going to share a ladder truck when everything's hitting the fan. So shared services for certain things may work, but a ladder truck, it just doesn't work. So we use our ladder all the time, whether it goes up, whether it saves somebody, but it has to be there for the protection of the citizens and also for the protection of the volunteers.
I might suggest that we pull the resolution and vote on it separately, because I think, Councilwoman Dayton, I think we will have the votes to pass it, but.
Okay. So
Just sorry, I have just a couple of clarification questions since we're talking about this issue on the contract. Again, I've asked for the contract. I assume everyone for $1 million, because I know we spend a lot of time on many small things. Have we all reviewed the contract?
Can I
Lauren, have
say
you reviewed the
something?
contract?
I don't have the full
Hello?
contract, but that's why we have a borough attorney. We have a
Sorry, time out for-
Susan's back end.
Yeah, time out for a second. Hold on a second. Before we do that, I need a motion by a council member to extend the curfew, and then someone to second, and we're going to have a roll call.
Motion to extend.
I second.
Okay.
Wait, can we have, Council President, can you put a time on that? I don't want to just extend it.
Yeah, 15.
And we extended every single meeting.
15 minutes, Jeff? What do you think?
15
Yes.
minutes. If we can't get
Oh, so 11:21.
ourselves organized in 15 minutes, that's sad.
I'd say 11:30. 11:30.
So-
Motion to extend for 15 minutes.
Well,
Sorry, Wendy.
hold on, council, just 1 second. You're still in your work session.
Right, we're not even in a public meeting yet.
I know.
So there's items on the agenda that really need to move forward as part of the storm recovery funding. That's in your public meeting.
So
keep that in
Wendy,
mind. Yes?
Wendy, that's fundamentally all covered in the consent agenda, correct?
I believe there's introduction of ordinances as well, Mayor. There's
in the consent agenda to fund the storm effort, there's a down payment from our capital improvement balance, and also we have a resolution to amend the capital ordinance, and then we also have bond ordinances that need to be passed tonight.
Okay, so let's I would ask the council member who made the motion to consider extending it to 11:30, please.
I move to extend our meeting tonight to 11:30.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Please, Omar, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
No.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
No. Every single meeting we extend. We are
Councilmember-
so bad at what we do. Every single meeting we extend.
All right. Continue to
Councilmember
vote,
Dr.
please.
O'Connor,
No.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, there's 3 and 3.
Yes, we've got to pay the bills. That's my only motivation.
We got to
Okay.
run we got to run these meetings better.
Yep. There's no question about it, but we got to pay the bills tonight. Okay.
So let's only talk on the stuff that we have to pay the bills for.
Right. So
let's move on.
Let's move on. Any other questions about resolutions? All right. Minutes to be approved. Any questions about those?
Just one real quick one. On the public comment section in the minutes, there was a typo. It says motion by Councilwoman O'Connor, second by Councilman Menon, that the consent agenda be approved. It should be the ordinance.
Oh, I actually changed that. I actually caught that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then nothing else.
Okay. Any questions on that? Thank you, Councilman Menon. Any questions on the public hearings? All right. For the good of the order.
Wait.
Mayor,
I happen to have a lot of them, but I'm requesting that we move them to a next meeting.
Council President, I would just suggest that when those come up, they just be carried on the record to a date certain so that we don't run afoul of advertisements.
That's fine with me.
Okay, for the good of the order. Old business, Volta contract has been moved to the close. And could I have a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, please?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're now in the public meeting. Okay, in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, the notice requirements have been satisfied. The meeting dates for the year are confirmed at the annual meeting, are posted on the public bulletin board in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and published in the record within the first 10 days of the new year. Okay, salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for the record, I am standing and I have a flag in my office. Okay, Omar, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dayton.
Here.
Councilmember Grossman.
Here.
Councilmember Menon.
Here.
Councilmember Michaels.
Here.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Here.
Councilmember Park.
Here.
Mayor Zena.
Here. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 2nd, 2021, the regular meeting, and September 2nd, 2021, the closed session?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Omar, please call the roll.
Voice vote.
Voice vote.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Wendy, revisions to the agenda.
Mayor, we're going to pull 2 items from the consent agenda for separate vote. One being Resolution R21-357 regarding the aerial fire truck, and the other being Resolution R21-359 to rescind Resolution R20-173.
Wendy,
Yes.
I'd like to reverse that. I don't want to pull it unless somebody else does.
Okay, perfect. So then it's only removing the fire truck resolution for separate vote.
Resolution 357. Okay. All right. Thank you. Are there any public comments? Any members of the public out there? Omar, that you see?
I see no hands, Mayor.
Okay. All right. I'd like to get a motion on the consent agenda items R21-355, R21-356, R21-358 through R21-370, please. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Read the roll, Omar, please.
Councilmember Dayton,
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman,
Yes.
Councilmember Menon,
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels,
Yes.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor,
Yes.
Councilmember Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion on R21-357, please?
So moved.
Can I get?
Which one is that?
Wendy?
Fire truck.
Wendy?
Oh, yes, Susan was going to
Wendy.
read it to the council.
I have to read it because there's changes to it. Can you
And
hear
I just
me?
had other questions as well, so we have to do that as well.
Okay, so let me read it first, and then you can ask the questions. How's that?
Sure.
Go ahead,
Because I
read
have
it.
changes in that. Okay. At a regular meeting of the mayor and council of the Borough of Tenafly, County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, held on September 14, 2021, whereas the Tenafly Fire Department finds it essential to purchase a new aerial fire truck from HGAC by, and whereas HGAC by contract number FS12-19 exists for the purchase of the said Rosenbauer Commander 4-drive full tilt aluminum aerial with an exterior aluminum body, single axle aerial fire truck from Rosenbauer, Minnesota, LLC, PO Box 549, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092, and whereas Rosenbauer Commander, a Nash 4-door full tilt aluminum aerial with an exterior aluminum body, single axle aerial fire truck qualifies to be purchased using a national cooperative, HGAC by contract number FS12-19 from Rosenbauer, Minnesota, LLC, PO Box 549, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092 at a total cost of $1,039,587. And whereas this resolution is contingent upon an economic analysis which shows a savings when compared to any New Jersey state or New Jersey cooperative price. Whereas Chief Financial Officer Susan Carraro advised that funding is available for this purchase from the capital budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Tenafly that it hereby authorizes the Tenafly Fire Department to contract for the purchase Rosenbauer Commander 4-door full tilt aluminum aerial with an exterior aluminum body, single axle aerial fire truck under HC by contract number SS12-19 from Rosenbauer, Minnesota, LLC, PO Box 549, Wyoming, Minnesota 55092 at a total cost of $1,039,587. So that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me.
So,
Question
Susan,
for Susan.
if there's a cheaper fire truck, we're allowed to pull this back?
If what's going to happen is when a council person before asked me a question about this, I pulled the resolution and looked at it, and I realized that this is not a state contract bid. This is a national cooperative. The chief complied with all the requirements of a national cooperative. It has been advertised, but one component of dealing with a national cooperative, because the state wants us to deal with New Jersey cooperatives, New Jersey state contracts, is we have to do an economic analysis. So, yes, if we find it cheaper, and the chief and I already discussed this right before the meeting, because this came up before the meeting, then if you can get, the same truck, the same specs, and all that, and we can find it where the economic analysis shows a savings to buy it either through a state contract or a New Jersey cooperative, that's what we'll have to go with. So that's why this resolution is contingent upon the analysis. And I cleared this with the auditor to write this language so that if the national cooperative is the best
deal and there is no cost savings, this will be moved forward if you should vote adopt. If we find that something is less, then we will do a new resolution and award to either a state contract or a New Jersey cooperative.
So, but aren't we pushing, if we pass this tonight, does that cut off our time to do that economic analysis?
No, I'll do it now, and the chief will do it right away. We're going to do this like immediately. You don't have to worry about it. The price set that she got is until the end of the month. We just have to make sure that this is a requirement of New Jersey Public Contracts Law. We have to do this economic analysis. But in order for us to move forward with this resolution, we need to get it done. So the thing that the governing body really needs to decide is if you're going to adopt and move forward. And then you have to let my department do the work to see if this was the best deal. If it's not a best deal, then this resolution doesn't move forward, and the chief will work with my department to put another resolution on for state contracts or New Jersey cooperative. But if the national cooperative is the best deal, then this resolution will pass. It will stay as it is, and the chief will move forward with this contract.
Thank you, Susan.
You're welcome.
Okay. Other questions on this resolution?
Yeah, so I'm happy to go. And Chief, thanks for being on. So first, let me be clear. I want the fire truck. It's not a question of wanting the fire truck. That's the first thing. The second thing is it's not a question of not having the budget for the fire truck. The budget's already done. The $1 million is already there. There's no, discussing that. That is no longer for discussion. And then the third one, actually, I trust you guys completely. I'm not trying to nickel and dime the fire truck. I'm not looking to expect that it's going to go for, $10,000 less. For me, this is a function of we asked to see if there would be any interest in other people. And again, just for clarification, with sharing the fire truck, no one's saying that they're going to pay 80% and they want to keep it with them. When we've spoken to them, they want us to keep it in our firehouse. They want us to pay for maintenance, and that's cool. For me, my best case scenario is they want to share it and they need it for, they'll pay us 20%, making up that number, and share the time. That's $200,000. We as a council spend tons and tons and tons of time. How many budget sessions did we have this past year? Six budget sessions? And we're talking about paper clips, and we're talking about photocopy paper. We're talking about $300 locks that we go back and we have 3 sessions on. This is $1 million that we're talking about here. And even the opportunity, the positive opportunity to save $200, $300, or $400,000, that's almost an entire year's increase in taxes for our residents. So first, absolutely, this has nothing to do with wanting the fire truck or not. We want the fire truck. It is in our best interest to do it. Else, I don't want to hear anyone complaining about the $30 that someone's spending for, paper towels come budget time. So for me, I just have a couple of questions. So the biggest one, I know Councilwoman Dayton is speaking about 2 years. Chief, am I clear reading from the one-page purchase order? This is the only thing that we receive. Again, our council asked for tons of material. I only have 1 page for this entire $1 million contract. Is it correct? It says it's for. I'm sorry?
Adam, the chief had to get bid pricing specs, and we had to tie those specs into the quote. We also had to get a corporate ownership statement, a business registration certificate, EEOC documents. The chief had to obtain a whole bunch of documents. I just want you to know, we had to advertise this, and we advertised it, within the time frame. So all the documentation that's required under the law is here with the exception of the economic analysis pertaining to
So
the
I
safety.
think Adam had a specific question. Adam?
So I appreciate that, Susan. The council has a seat. I know the council always asks for stuff, but we have the one pager. So, Chief, is it correct that it's 425 days? Is that correct? Is that when we should expect it?
That would be from the signing of the contract. So you have to approve it first, then we actually have to go meet with their engineers to make everything legit. So once the contract is signed, then it would be what they stated, 425. Or,
So let's add another 30 days, and I'm making it up. I don't know. I assume it can't be that much.
30 to 60, whatever,
Okay.
the schedule works out.
So the same 14, 15 months to get it. The
Right,
biggest
but,
question.
We've also been working on it for 3 years, but that might have been before your time or whatever.
Yeah, it was before my
But-
time. I can't. I only take responsibility for the stuff I mess up. Yes,
No,
absolutely.
that's okay. But also, you said whoever it might be, Dumont might want to give $200,000.
Yep.
But how is Dumont going to get the fire truck to Dumont? I mean, our members, our volunteers are already stressed out with all the calls we're doing in Tenafly. So that $200,000, and then you're going to put a lot of stress on the Tenafly Fire Department, just might not work. We're still all volunteer. I believe Dumont is also.
I'd love to increase the stipend. I'd love to give you the $200,000 versus Rosenbauer, Minnesota, the $200,000. So there are all those things, but again, we only had 10 days to. So whatever happened, yeah. I mean, this is just. I've been involved in this for the 10 days from the last meeting.
Right.
So
it's been going on for a year, and I think I remember seeing you last year, and we did talk about shared services way back then. We're going to be in the need for another fire truck, I would say, in the next 2 or 3 years. So that's something I would say we could work on. I know you're going the other way, and I have to go my way because I think it's the best for Tenafly.
No, absolutely.
So that's I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it's helpful on the days. So the biggest question I had for Susan was, just because I know myself, you can't buy a car these days with all the chips, with all the supply. I know I'm having problems in my day job. And what happens if they don't deliver in the 425 days?
I've been doing this for a long time. I know things are a little bit different last couple of years. We've never had a delay on a fire truck. If it was very minor, a week or two, a month. I don't, this is like a diesel truck. I don't think the chip that everybody's having problems with comes into play, but I could actually ask that question. But as far as I know, there are no delays on the manufacturing of the fire trucks.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. And again, Councilwoman Dayton's right. We've been waiting so long. What I don't want is for us to pay, and there's delay. So as I best understand, there's no penalty for delay. So they could come anytime they want. They could be a month late. They could be 2 months late, 3 months late.
Councilman Michaels, that would be addressed in the contract once the specs are all worked out and finalized.
So is that something that we're able to do in the contract, to put in penalties?
We certainly can
also,
negotiate.
They don't get their money until they complete the truck. So it's not like they're going to be wanting to hold that truck.
Yeah, but again, to council, I think it's something that we should probably put into the contract and make sure we, I think that's a pretty big piece. And then I don't know the other things around, like I know Councilwoman O'Connor, are there any sustainability things that we could be looking in with the truck? You know the attributes, and I remember when you spoke about it, we have a lot of hills, so we have a different mechanics. Again, just because I know these trucks do last 10, 20 years, is that something that is even spoken about during the fire trucks?
About their how long they last, you mean?
The sustainability aspect, I know that there's no Tesla charger for fire trucks yet, but again, for something that we're going to spend 25 years on, would love to have a greener one if that's at all possible.
Believe it or not, we looked into it, not very close, but you're probably talking another $500,000 to get something that's green.
Right.
Okay, all right, so let's, Adam, does that cover your questions?
No, I have a couple more, but
'Cause we're
sure, I
running
know.
out of time.
It's good. I love you stepping up and being efficient at the start. That's good. I like that. Let's go.
All right, so let's, could I have a motion on R21-357, please?
I would like to move R21-357 to authorize the purchase of the aerial fire truck for the Tenafly Fire Department. And I defer to our chief, Phil Pott here. In his professional opinion, he is saying this is not appropriate for shared services and this is a needed purchase.
All right, could I have a second, please?
Second.
Could I get a roll call?
Jeff, you don't
please?
like this stuff? Come on, man. It's good stuff.
We have
Councilmember
60
Dayton.
One more.
Councilmember Dayton.
I need to make a motion to extend.
Okay, we're in the middle of a roll call vote here, so let's finish one vote at a time.
Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
Yes.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
No.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
You guys saw all the spelling errors in this contract also, right? You're okay with spelling errors?
There's a vote.
We'll fix it.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
Can you skip me for a moment?
So
And just give Dan first.
Councilmember Park.
Just
No.
looking just.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Park. I didn't hear your answer.
No.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
We could buy it a month from now if we want.
The price goes up though. That's my worry.
We don't know if the price goes up. Price could go down.
I would hate for a resident to be at risk.
It's not debate.
Like you just said, it's 2 years anyway.
Wait, Mark, I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Mark? Go ahead.
It's time to vote. It's debating is over.
Okay. Yes. Sorry. Yes. We'll do it. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to.
Thank you, Chief
Do we
Philpott.
we need to. We'll need to. I need a motion to extend this again to get to the public ordinances, to get to the public hearings.
No, you can't keep doing this.
Well, I then just vote no. We're trying to get the business done. You guys just vote. If no one extends it, we end the meeting, and we'll have to have a special meeting for the balance of these ordinances. So if there's no motion, there's no motion.
Motion
Adjourn.
to extend.
Did.
I can't hear. Do I have a motion?
Motion to extend to 11:45.
Seconded.
Have a second.
Councilmember Dayton.
Yes.
Councilmember Grossman.
No.
Councilmember Menon.
Yes.
Councilmember Michaels.
No.
Councilmember Dr. O'Connor.
No.
Councilmember Park.
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned. I mean, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
You can do anything but lay off of my blue suede shoes. You can knock 'em down, step in my face,